Alrighty, and welcome back for another Wednesday evening. We're gonna up the game a little bit this week. We've got three presenters. First, Chris Sweet's gonna give us some pass pro stuff from. I think he's in Washington. He'll give us a little bit of an update of where he is and what he's been up to, and then he's going to spend about 30 minutes or so taking us through a presentation on offensive pass protection. And then we're going to have former U of T, Toronto Argonaut, Grey Cup champ, and present Peterborough Wolverine coach Gabe Robinson take us through some D-line stuff and stance and first step things. He's got 30 to 40-minute presentation, and then James Stanley, Winnipeg Blue Bombers defensive coach, is going to join us probably around 9. James and I just spoke, and he's got a pretty good practice plan and some stuff that he's done over different stops that he's had. It's a pretty good presentation. As always, anybody watching on YouTube, make sure that you put the comments if you have any questions or anything. And Paul and I will ask those when there is time during the presentations. And don't forget to hit the like button so that Paul can keep getting this out as far as it goes. And without further ado, Chris, you want to take us away on the pass protection?
I'll do my best here. Always like to say hi to people I haven't seen in a while. Jamie, how you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. A long time no see.
Yeah.
Great to see you here. I hope I don't bore you tonight. So
Not at all.
All right, I'm gonna hit the share screen here, see how I do. All right, help me out, Paulie. It says I got advanced share, one participant. What do I do here, bud?
What is it saying for you?
I'm hitting that little green button, right?
Yep.
Then optimize. I see it now, but I apologize.
There you go.
Tell me when it's up, please, Paul. You got anything there, Paul?
Yep, we got your video.
All right, here we go. What I did this week, gentlemen, and again, thanks for asking me on. James, I saw you jump on there. James, look forward to hearing you, bud. I try to put some of our clips from here at Howard. For guys that don't know, Howard is a one AA program here in Washington, D.C. So I try to take some of our drills, show our guys doing it in live footage, and I pulled some Browns film on top of it. So I got some note up, each and every play here. So the first thing I put up here was, this was us right at the beginning of this debacle we call a spring season. And this is, I call this an up kick or a jump set. This would be an aggressive pass set. And I got some clips of these. This is a true freshman guard center that we had. Got a little bit of trouble. We'll be a good ball player, but made a dumbass decision. But right, this is what we use on play action. I call this a jump set. This would be an aggressive set, play action set on a 3 technique. All right, and all they're doing here on this particular play, you'll notice his outside foot is up. It's like we're damn run blocking with our head out. That's how I describe the jump. And when he punches, everything I try to do foot pattern wise is we redirect. All right, now right here with his hand carriage, I'd like to see his hands be a little looser up top. But when we jump a defender, we talk about 3 steps in the ground. So it just goes right back to the run block that we have talked about a few weeks ago. And if anybody's got any question, please stop me. But he's going to his right here. This would be a right guard, a center, let's say, versus a shade tackle versus a 5 on the right side. His foot pattern is really going to be right, left, right. And he wants to punch off the second, third step. And you'll notice at this point, his outside foot is up, which is kind of untraditional, but it just happens naturally within the run block. Then he turns it back into a kick, because when you jump a defender, 3 things are going to happen. They're going to continue to bull rush you, or they're going to dip and rip inside or outside. It's only 3 things that they can do. So we're just trying to isolate that part of the block. All right, so the next one, here's a young man. Here's a sophomore. He, bless his heart, he gives you everything he's got. He's not real flexible, not real athletic, but he does everything you ask him to do. All right, this is a little bit different. The first one was a jump. All right, and I got Deshaun here. We call this a lateral jump or an up kick. So he's going to work lateral for 3 steps. Then on the third step, it gets into the line of scrimmage. So on that third step, we want to use our outside hand and just put it right in the outside armpit. All right, you'll see our guys doing it, and we get that outside hand up, in, and on as fast as possible. So this is another 3-step process. So he's going to his left, so it's going to be left, right, left. The third step is the contact step. It's going to get up and into the line of scrimmage. We're trying to cut as much space as possible down. We want to take the fight to the defender. Okay, so there's just a clip of it there. Then Deshaun now gets the inside move, and he's going to post back down inside. All right, so here's another clip of it here. We're getting it. This is probably our most experienced guy. This is he doing the up kick here. This is our left guard working versus the 3 technique. So he's going to his left. So his foot pattern is going to be left, right, left. Left foot's going to be up in the line of scrimmage. And then when he punch, we're only going to punch a live situation with one hand. We're just working on timing the punch. Then he's just going to redirect back inside. All right, here's Deshaun doing it again. There's another up kick, same type of drill. And we're trying to go pretty fast here in all of our drills. One guy's up, one guy's down, etc. All right, the next gentleman you got right here, he looks like he ate his parents, doesn't he? He's 6'8". He weighed in at 363. He's from Mississauga. I would lie to you if I could tell you how to pronounce his last name. It's Aneem Dinkwa, I think his last name is Dinkwa. He's only a freshman. He's got 3 more years of eligibility. He's going to be a pretty good player. So right here is Big Aneem. All right, so now we're going to work this. You'll see the outside hand in the contact phase. So Aneem's going to work 1, 2. You'll notice the up kick. So it's going to go right, left. We're working the first 2 steps lateral. Then his third step's going to be up in the line of scrimmage. And we want to lead with this outside hand. We want to lead with this outside hand and get it up, in, and on as fast as possible to the outside armpit area. Then I want to take this inside hand, and you'll notice how it is down, and he clubs the rib cage. He'll club the rib cage to deter any inside movement. All right, I call it a long stick, and I grew up watching professional wrestling back in the day, and there was a wrestler named Nikita Koloff, had the old Russian sickle. Well, all he did was he clotheslined people with his dominant arm. Well, that's what I want him to do with that inside hand. We call it a Nikita, club the inside. All right, we want to club the inside, try to catch him right in the rib cage. So it's outside hand, long, inside hand on the club to take care of the inside movement. So that's kind of how we just kind of do it there. All right, so let's see right here. I got some live kicks right here. All right, so we should be looking at look at the left guard. If you notice how he takes him tight and gets his off hand up on him right there. And you'll see the inside hand club. If you're looking right here, gentlemen, if you look right here, look at his inside hand. Look at his inside hand, and you'll see it circle, and it just kind of stops the move. You'll see the outside hand. I know the damn goalpost is in the way. Fucking kickers can't kick through it anyway. All right, but we want to put that outside hand right there in the armpit, and you'll notice how tight we take them. The center's kind of doing the same thing right here versus this shade. You'll notice the outside hand comes. If you're watching his left hand here, I'm sorry, guys. He coming out left hand. He's still getting that club, and he just covers the guy up with his feet. All right, not a bad looking rep there. All right, not a bad looking rep. So there's other things we can look at as we'll cover throughout the whole deal here. All right, we'll get to this later, but watch the right tackle on our tackle sets. I think this is important, and I learned this from somebody years ago, and it's kind of stuck with me. I tell these tackles when they're setting a wide 5, all we're doing is looking at the inside shoulder. We'll get to this later. And he's keying that shoulder. If that shoulder's up the field, we just kind of box it out like you do playing basketball. We call it a shoulder read. The shoulder can only do 3 things, right? It can be up the field, equal speed rush. We'll get to this later. If both hands come at me, it's a bull rush. We drop and pop. If he goes inside hard, it's a twist. So I got some of these later. Just kind of a preview for what's coming down the road here, gentlemen. Stop me anytime. All right, here's another key point. I think this is kind of neat. And I learned this at minicamp, Paul, when we were down in Florida that one year, we were in the hotel. All right, when you had our room, Paul, at about 34 degrees. All right. When you guys look at your pass rushes in one-on-ones or in team, I call it an alleyway, and I'll get to all this a little bit later, but I just happened to see it on this clip. I want to look at his inside foot. And if I take that foot and mark it 1 yard inside, I call that the alleyway. So wherever that alleyway is, if I can make contact with the defensive end somewhere within that alley, we got a pretty good chance of winning the rep. So if I'm watching our left tackle here, he takes him wide. Look how wide he takes him. We got a great chance of winning that rep right there. That's an all-conference. Both these defensive ends were all-conference kids as freshmen and sophomores. All right, pretty good players. But you'll notice here, taking these guys wide. It sits for a nice pocket. We just got to get rid of the goddamn ball, don't we? All right, something about that guy right there is just too open. All right, too open. All right, but we got pretty good pocket being set right there. All right, next clip here, guys. All right, we want to look at the right guard here. All right, you'll notice how he sets him tight as possible. But see how he gets his outside hand on him, and then the left hand comes up under the armpit right there. All right, so all eyes on the right guard, please. He takes a up kick off of 1 foot. Now, you saw us earlier, gentlemen. We were up kicking or lateral jumping or jumping a loose 3. Now the sucker's pretty tight. My rule to these guys is this. If he's tight, I'm tight. If he's loose, then I got to vary my set. Okay? But right here, he's tight, so he can make this contact on 1 step. So this young man right here, on the first step, he steps and covers him up. He's inside out, but he gets his outside hand right on the armpit, and the guy's kind of done dealing, and he gets his inside hand to the armpit. All right, now let's take a look at this right tackle. All right, and I encourage you guys to think about this. If you're outmatched, okay, you got to help your guys, right? But if you have a good defensive end, you chip him, you nudge him, whatever you got to do. Sometimes just putting the defender in his face. All right, so anytime our rule is if we got a tight end surface, we call it aggressive tight end set. And that means you go get your hands on him as fast as possible. All right, so our goal is when we set, we want to take our foot and just put it right inside of where his foot was. All right, take him nice and tight. All right, because he's got to play the release of the tight end. We just get our hands on him as fast as possible. I call it aggressive tight end set. But pretty good look there. You'll notice our center kind of doing the same thing. All right, he's going to set, he's going to up kick with the outside foot. He just gets his outside hand on him, cuts the space down before the guy can get going. All right, we're going to get our hands up in and on. Up in and on. Again, look at the alleyway here. 1 yard inside his inside foot. We take them nice and wide. We got a good chance of winning that rep. All right, that's too damn easy. All right, next rep here. Okay, now this is a one-on-one rep of doing the same type set. This is the big Canadian kid right here. All right, now he doesn't win the rep at the long point, but this is a fantastic rep of cutting down the space. This is a strong, powerful young man on defense. He's just a true freshman as well. All right, but you'll notice Aneem right there. Aneem is on the white line, blah, blah, blah. His foot's on the damn number, or excuse me, on the yard tick mark there. Watch Aneem's first step in the outside hand. Bam. He takes the fight to him, and he puts his hand on the outside. Now, this tackle now, before he can get it going, Aneem stopped his charge. Aneem could be a little bit quicker with his left foot and his inside hand, but that right there is where we want to take him. That's where we want to take him. He gets his inside hand is coming, but that outside foot cut the space down. There's a great example. He is fully extended. Can't really tell, but you want the elbow down, thumb up. But that's a perfect up kick right there. And then Aneem's just got to now get him off his body and reset his hands. All right, and that's just another drill later. As you can tell, this kid on defense is pretty damn strong. But we get our hands up in and on, we got a fighting chance. All right, that ball may get out right there, guys. That ball's probably getting out in a live situation. That's a possible late pressure. But I think that's a hell of a job right there by that young man. All right, now the next part here is, and I don't know how much twisting, those type of things that you're seeing, but we do this one about once or twice a week, where any movement away from the quarterback, we throw it. So we call this fit and throw. So once they throw the defender, it's like this guy's the penetrator on a twist, and then we got a looper coming. So we're just isolating the throw. All right, so when Brandon right here throws him, the one thing we teach here, when any defender goes away from the quarterback, throw it out, throw it in, whatever. I don't give a rat's ass now if his shoulders turn. If his shoulder turns, that's because he's getting full, what I call tricep extension right there. His shoulder's going to turn, but the hip must stay square. If you turn the hip, we're whistling Dixie thinking we're going to come back on the looper. That's a good fit and throw. Our hips stay square. Our shoulder turns a little bit, but we want to throw him to our partner. So that was kind of one rep there. All right, and then I got the young freshman here again. Still kind of robotic. All right, he can take one more step, but he's getting full extension. He's throwing that big sucker out of the way there. It's about 380 at that day. All right, but he's going to throw him inside and he come back off for the loop. Like I said, these are all young players. All right, here's the right guard right here. Got a loose 3 technique. All right, you'll see the same drill being put in action right there. All right, it goes out, throw it out. It goes out, throw it out. That's a good rep. Just throw it. Any movement away, throw it. All right, you'll notice the tackle here. We call this, if you look at the tackle, I call this a dragon set. All right, we get a loose 3 or we're expecting a twist. We call it a dragon set because we're dragging our inside hand. We're just kind of sitting straight back. We're putting that sucker in a phone booth. He's dragging the hand for the twist. That way he can feel the three technique on the penetrator. But our damn left guard does such a good job throwing this kid out. This number 90 is probably our strongest player that we got in terms of squat and bench press. So he's throwing out a pretty solid human being right there. And then at this point, it just becomes right there. He looks like he get edged right here. Fellas, I don't give a damn right there because there's other people in there. All right, that's a great rep right there. All right, at this point right now, that's a bull rush. Just drop and pop, put both hands under the armpit. Feels a little wide with his hands right there. Okay, but I think that's a great job by that that left guard. Anybody got any questions, please stop me or everything, so forth. All right, let's look at our right guard here. All right, guy goes out, he throws it out. And then you'll notice when he throws it out, the shoulder turns. I can't read his numbers, but his hip stays pretty square. His hip stayed square, et cetera, right there. And he guys just does a great job throwing it out. All right, find that guy when he comes back. Try to get nose to nose. And like I said, there's other people in there. There's other people in there. Okay, and you'll notice right there, he has a nice wide base, et cetera, and so forth. Okay, so that's a pretty good rep there. All right, now, I see this happen quite a bit. And you'll notice here, guys, this guy here on defense is the key. He's got to hold this bag. All right, this is our long snapper who helped us out all spring, God bless him, because we only had 8, 9 guys some days. All right, this is our 225-pound tight end. He's going to be a pretty good tight end. He had to play tackle just to get us through this damn debacle we call it spring. But you'll notice him on the bull rush later, and then this kid may see some reps. But you'll notice how he's holding the bag here. That's kind of what this guy's doing. So whenever we feel the bull rush, we want to knock their hands down. All right, so you'll notice right here, we're going to knock the hands down. This represents what we call a chop, a trap. I call it a trap. We're going to chop the hands down. Then we want to replace the hands. All right, so you'll notice Brandon right there knocks it down, and then we just reset our hands and then we got a bull. All right, so you'll notice right here doing the same thing. Our hands are on. We feel the bull rush. We knock it down, and we just got to reset our hands. All right, now I've got some clips here of some NFL people doing. That's the only drill. I didn't get a lot of individual filmed, unfortunately. All right, so let's take a look right here. Watch the right guard. Watch the right guard. I got one of these later I found this morning. I put it at the end, I believe. All right, so the right guard gets his hands on. Right there. See how he knocks the hand down? All right, he knocks the hand down right there. Now, this is a little interesting here. Watch this guard here. He feels a bull rush or the tackle, and he just grabs the top of the pads and throws him down. I know Coach Durazio taught that years ago, called a snatch. He just grabs the top of the pad versus the bull and just puts him on the ground. But there's a great example. If all their weight is leaning on you, just knock their hands down. Just knock their hands down. All right, so right here we got, this is our tackle. This is another true freshman. He's going dragon set here. And whenever we do one-on-ones, I'm giving these guys keys. I want to see a dragon set. I want to see a short set. I want to see a kick to jump. I don't care if they get beat. I mean, I don't give a shit. I mean, hell, this is the damn quality control coach. If he gets hit, he gets hit, right? It's not the damn quarterback. It's not the quarterback. So I don't care what happens in this. We're just going to work on different sets. So he's working his dragon set. All right, and you see this right here. All the weight of this defensive end is on him. He's just got, we call it a long arm. He's got a long arming right there. Now, this is, I call him Bambi. He's got knees and ankles and hips going everywhere. He'll be a pretty good player in the long run, but he's just a freshman. That guy puts that hand on him. I just want him to take that inside hand and just knock it down. All the weight's forward, just knock their hands down. Just knock their hands down. So that was a pretty good rep there. All right, I kind of thought he did a nice job there. Got a little off kilter, but that's kind of what we look for. All right, so see what I got. Right guard right here. You'll notice right here the 3 technique. Or now it comes a 2-eye. All of his weight's on his outside hand. Just knock it down. I'm not real smart, but if all their weight's forward and you can knock down what is holding them up, they're going to go straight down the ground. Okay, I think it's a great way to stop the bull rush. It's a great way to stop the damn long arms that these defensive ends are doing. You just got to practice it. Once they feel it once, it's unbelievable the confidence that they'll get, and they'll just keep doing it. I got multiple drills going on here. All right, this is one of these days when right before we got going, we had to pause practice because the team canceled the game on us, and theoretically we couldn't practice. So we were out there able to go out in short in smaller groups. Okay, so I got these guys out here, no pads. This is the shoulder read drill I was talking earlier for the tackles. All right, so this tackle right here can be done with or without pads. we're looking at the inside shoulder pad of the defender. This pad can only do three things. If it gives you a speed rush, whenever his pad gets even with my pad, so we're shoulder to shoulder, just like boxing out, we just say box his ass out, box his ass out. If he comes up and at me, where the shoulder now turns into, you can read his numbers. As soon as his hands come at you, he's telling you bull rush. Then you must drop your hips and take both hands and put them right down the arms, or excuse me, right down the middle of it. If he goes inside on the first or third step, that's a twist, and then we get into our twist pickup mode. But here's something I think it's important here, and I started this years ago. All right, and Ben Archibald, who played for me in Calgary, you would actually hear Ben doing this in practice. The tackle is reading my shoulder. So right now, it would sound like this. I say, set, go. He's going speed, 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 bull. All right, so as soon as I show the hands, we want to drop. All right, you'll notice he kind of drops his hips here a little bit to play the bull rush. All right, so if I go inside, you would hear Phil going, game, 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 game. Okay, so as soon as the hands come at me, he's yelling bull. All we're doing is just focusing on what we're looking at there on the shoulder read. All right, you'll notice I'm trying to get him to bend here a little bit. Now I'll go to the other side here. All right, so here's our young group here. All right, so right now, guys, I'm giving them a shoulder read to read the inside shoulder. They're reading the inside shoulder. Shoulder goes in, it's a twist. All right, now Jack right here shouldn't look at me. All right, my young man right here, he gets his eyes where they need to be on a twist read. Come back inside, snap your eyes inside now for the penetrator. All right, let's see what I got going here next. All right, so this is really quick. All right, now I'm giving them a speed to a bull. All right, you'll notice they just kind of drop. That's a good job right here. That it's going to be a hell of a tight end for us. I really believe that. All right, just drop and pop on the bull. All right, so hands at me, I drop and pop. All right, just drop and pop. Now, here we come back. I put the cones here, all right, to represent what would be the defender's feet. So this is my right guard. This is a right guard coming down on a four-man slide. I call it a hard post. All right, he's going to come down. He's going 1, 2, 3. All right, 1, 2, 3. Our feet work in equal and odd numbers. So it's going to be left, right, left. And when he's coming off that inside foot, we want to damn dig that foot in the ground, and that's going to be where our power comes from. I call it a kickstand. All right, kickstand holds up a bike, you know, and motorcycles, et cetera. That inside foot, when it hits the ground, our hands got to come right now. I like to see the bag holder work a little more to him, but 1, 2, 3, punch. And then we're going to have help by the center, and you'll see the center sit here in a second. So it's just myself out there trying to get 3 different drills going at one time. Okay? All right, so now here's the other guard doing the same thing on this side. He's coming on a four-man slide to our left. 1, 2, 3, and punch. 1, 2, 3, and punch. Nice rep. All right, nice rep. If anybody in the U.S. is looking for a transfer, this kid is no longer with us. Let me know. He just made a mistake. Good kid, made a mistake. I want to help the kid out if I can. So if anybody's looking for a transfer, please let me know. 1, 2, 3, punch. All right, 1, 2, 3, punch. You'll notice we don't want this foot on the ground. We want our whole instep in the ground. All right. So it's just a hard post. 1, 2, 3, punch. That's a nice rep. That's a pretty damn good rep. You notice the elbows are down. You'll notice the knee is inside of the foot. Okay, that's a hell of a rep right there. All right, now here's our long snapper who does everything right technique-wise, all right? But here's our long snapper. He got me through the whole spring. I actually had to play 2 series in one of the games because our center was being IV'd. All right, but it's 1, 2, 3, boom, get his hands down. All right, 1, 2, 3, punch. All right, it's not a bad rep right there by that young man. He's a great drill kid. All right, this kid here, boom, 1, 2, 3, hard post, get it inside. I don't like the hop. He hops a little bit too much, but at least he's covering the ground. He gets his inside foot in the ground on contact. Okay. All right, now we'll go here to the centers. Let me try to fast forward here. Okay. All right, here's our center now. We're talking about that four-man slide. So this would be the right guard, what I call hard posting now. So we got a four-man slide. I call this a kick, hold, drag. He's going to kick. His eyes are in the A gap. He's going to kick, hold it, and because he's got 2 hands coming by his partner on the outside. So this is how we kind of drill our sets on the slide protection when you got help coming from the inside out. All right, so that'd be a four-man slide. This could be the guard. This would be the right guard. if the center was working with him on a 3-man slide. Kick, hold, drag. So we're going to kick the outside foot. We're going to hold the inside foot as long as possible, and we're going to drag the hand. Kick, hold, drag. These are not terms I made up. I got that from Coach Durazio probably back in the mid-90s. Okay, so kick, hold, drag. Here's our walk-on center here. Gives you everything he's got. You'll notice he's not as fluid, but he'll damn fight his ass off for you. Okay, undersized young man, but doing the same type drill. Okay, so let's go to the next drill here. All right, like I said, stop me anytime. All right, so now here we go. Let's look at the left tackle. All right, it should be shoulder reads right here. All right, look at the left tackle. So right now, he's setting, his eyes are on that inside shoulder. All right, he's getting a speed rush, just turns him, boxes him out, runs him wide. So right there's your speed rush, and just punch what he gives you. On a speed rush, they may give you chest. You just punch the chest, and it's punching off. Punch, get your hands off. If all he gives you is a shoulder pad, which this young man does, just punch the tip of the pad, reset your hands. Now, here's an interesting point. I learned this back probably my first year coaching the offensive line at Presbyterian College from watching a guy from the Buffalo Bills. I'll never forget it. You'll notice what we teach this left guard or left tackle doing here. When the guy turns the edge, he just keeps what I call one-hand constant pressure with his inside hand and rides them by. So I call it one-hand constant pressure. All right, so let's see my other note right there. All right, let's watch the right tackle. He sets. He's a little more passive in his sets. He's not comfortable with all this yet. Like I say, he's a tight end. But yeah, it's kind of a speed rush, but the guy's close enough to punch the chest. He just kind of punches the chest, and he tries a long arm. Right there, I'd like to see him knock that inside hand down, but he keeps the one-hand constant pressure and just keeps bridging. He weighs 225 pounds. All right, those are two pretty good defensive ends right there. All right, that's kind of one rep there. Stop me at any time. Let me turn my page here. Next rep. All right, look at the right tackle here. All right, we're back into that shoulder read thing. All right, so he's keying Broke's inside shoulder here. So Brokenberg gives him the inside dead leg. He's keying the inside shoulder. Watch what he does. When he goes inside, watch Jack snap his eyes inside. Bam. Keying the inside shoulder. Now, here's a key point that I think is important when you come inside on a twist. 4 things must move when you come inside to pick up the penetrator. Your foot, your knee, your shoulder, and your eyes all must come inside. So you'll notice here, his inside foot comes back inside, as does the knee, the hip, and the shoulder, and the eyes. All come back inside to pick up the penetrator. All right, here we go. There's your right guard. He's lateral jumping. He's lateral jumping, so he's not getting his inside foot up as much as an up kick, but guy goes out. Big Deshaun right there just throws his ass outside. All right, just throws him outside, and then you'll see right there he gets in a little bit of a bounce. All right, you'll notice Jack right here. You'll see this guy's got his hands under Jack. Watch Jack, not strong enough yet, right? Not strong enough, but watch him trying to knock the hands down. He may have got him down right there. Those guys get a candy bar for every time they damn trap a guy and get him to the ground. So I think I gave out 3 the whole spring, but I'm not sure I gave 1 for that. But there's kind of just some things right there tying in. All right, so the next one right here. Yes, sir.
So one of our guys asked, how do the linemen communicate when facing a twist? So other than their eyes, are they actually verbalizing anything?
Oh, a lot of it starts pre-snap. All right, the right guard I got is exceptional, okay, in terms of communicating. If he sees a wide 3, so they get in their stance, he's telling the tackle, I'm going to up it, I'm going to up it, I'm going to up kick it, I'm jumping, I'm shorty, I'm going to short kick. He's giving the tackle a little bit of communication on how he's going to set it. If that guy's wide, like I said, the right guard is really good. He may say, I'm up and hey, he's loose. Watch the twist. So they're communicating beforehand. All right. So if that guy goes out, he's yelling, twist. If I'm the tackle and my guy goes limp or gives me a dead leg and starts to loop inside, the tackle's yelling, twist. So we're trying to yell it out at all times. So even in our individual periods when we're fitting and throwing, even though there's only one person going, as soon as they're throwing, they're yelling twist. So we're trying to communicate that at all times. Yes. I hope that answered the question.
That's good stuff. Yeah, we got a couple minutes left here, Chris.
Well, hell, I got 24 more clips. You're killing me. All right, here we go. I'm good. All right, let's look at the left tackle here. There's a speed rush, shoulder read, just punch the shoulder. Pretty good job there. Okay, there's the shoulder read there. We're good. All right, let's look at the right tackle. All right, the right tackle right there gets a both hands at me, drop, punch. Both hands at me, bull rush. All right, just let me know when you need me to stop, okay? I got plenty of stuff here. All right, so we're looking at the left tackle here. All right, he gets a shoulder read and just punches whatever, he gets a speed rush, and then he gets a chest read, he just punches the chest. And then right here, the guy tries to long arm him with his inside hand. I'd like to see him now take that inside hand, just knock it down right there, put him on the ground. All right, just put him on the ground. All right, and you'll notice here, the guy starts pushing him back, just bounce, hop, hop, hop. Just get your ass kicked with dignity, as Howard Mudd used to say. All right, next one right here. Let's look at the left tackle, I believe it is. All right, let's go. Left tackle. Yeah, both hands at me, bull rush. Both hands at me, bull rush. All right, so that's kind of there. Right tackle. He gets a speed rush. He's keying the inside shoulder. So right now, this guy right here is giving me nothing but speed rush key. Speed rush, speed rush. He keeps working wide. Just punch what he gives you. Just punch what he gives you. Watch the right guard. He gets a bull rush. The defender's got his hands on him and leaning. He just grabs the top of his pads and pulls him down. It's all. I don't know if you can do it with the official right here. You know, that's something I got to research a little bit. Okay. All right. We're still looking at we're still looking at the shoulder read. So look at the right tackle. All right. So the right tackle right now is looking at this inside shoulder. Now, the other thing too, remember I said our right guard will be telling this tackle, hey, the guy's loose, the guy's loose. Well, right there is a pretty good twist indicator. All right. So there we might go to a dragon set. All right. Oop, I thought I had a twist read. All right, didn't. I'm sorry. All right. I'm on the wrong play here, I think. But you'll notice here, watching the right tackle, that's straight speed read right there. All right. Straight shoulder up the field. Straight shoulder up the field. All right. Straight shoulder up the field. Left tackle. Left tackle. He sets. He's keying the inside shoulder of this defensive end. Left tackle. Guy comes at me. Both hands come at me. Just drop for the bull. Just drop for the bull. Let's see what we got here. Try to get back on count here. All right, let's take it right here now. Let's look at the right tackle. Remember we said he's looking at the inside shoulder. Both hands at me equals bull. Shoulder straight up the field equals speed rush. If he goes inside on his first or third step, we just poke back hard inside. We just rep that every day with the shoulder reads. Up and in, drop the inside foot. This is a great twist, though. All right, great twist. All right, Richie, if you're on here, Richie, the best way to twist now is put a shade to the back because you know you got the man side and out. The timing of it, Richie, screws up here because they can't bump it off because they're going to be on levels. That's a great look right there, Richie. All right, not a bad look. All right, oh, shit, let's look right here. If the player is leaning on me, just knock his hands down. I like it. Now, here we go. Now, this is our kick slide here. Now, I like these bands. All right, you'll notice I start just kind of pulling on him a little bit. As I pull on him, watch him drive his inside knee down. This is all for balance. Just kind of pulling on him. And you'll notice right here, Big Phil, all right, he's just driving his inside knee down. All right, and that's going to keep his butt down. And then I'm just doing this to work on their foot speed. All right, good kick step. You'll notice right there, he's getting fully extended. His ankle is outside of the knee. The knee is inside of the ankle, wherever how you want to look at it. And we're just working on the kick foot patterns. Okay, so that was one, and we'll come back over here, and I got a player doing it. All right, so here's a freshman doing it. First time he's ever had these bands on him. All right, so we got to pull them really hard. We're just working on their foot speed. That's a great rep right there by a young man. All right, you'll notice here, as he's kicking, his foot staying as north and south, straight up the field as possible. And when he lands, everything is landing on the instep. All right, and it's keeping him down. It's keeping him square. You'll notice his shoulders really never raise up. Never raise up. All right, let's see. Just tell me when you're ready to stop there, Coach. All right, so again here I'm looking at the let's look at the right tackle here. All right, there's another aggressive set. There's the kick footwork we just worked on. All All right, there's the kick footwork we just worked on. You'll notice the hands are in cement right there. Nice low hand carriage so we can punch low to high. All right, let's look at the left tackle. He's got a tight end surface. He's going to go get his hands on him right now. And I like to say is if you get your hands on him really fast, those defensive ends don't know whether to shit or turn or watch. Okay, so get your hands on him right now. Go get your hands. Now, other things we have talked about tonight. All right, there's your kick hold drag by the center. All right, we saw that drill. All right, here's the guard, hard posting inside. Guard, hard posting inside on a 4-man slide. All right, left guard gets his outside hand on the outside armpit right now. Okay, so there's all little things that you saw as kind of drill, all right, earlier on. Now here we go. Here's a jump, all right, on air. 1, 2, 3, and he just kind of redirects. All right, and he just kind of redirects. I kind of like that. I think he's pretty good at this. So let's watch the right guard and the right tackle. All right, this is the same drill we just worked with my man Brandon right there. He did it on there. Let's watch the right guard and right tackle. There's the jump. Boom, boom, boom. The other defenders playing run. Now, right there, they're going to go bull you. They're going to rip you and try to get inside or outside or continue bullying you. All right, that's why we always work the foot redirection drill. All right, so it's a great look there. All right. Now, here's a good look. Here's something else we talk about, fight pressure with pressure. So you'll notice the defender here, we're trying to not break his shoulder down. So the defender's trying to knock the inside shoulder down to bull rush. If you feel that, if they're going to rush the outside edge of you, we teach them to lock in this situation, is inside hand out and lock the inside hip. Then we switch it up. So you'll notice right there, my damn long snapper right there, fighting his little ass off. All right, he's going to lock the inside hand out, inside hip, outside hand, outside hip, etc. All right, another look right there. That's a good look. All right, these are kids right here. These are 2 walk-on kids fighting their ass off, just locking the hip out. Locking the hip out. Here's Brandon, my most experienced one. All right, locking it out. It's a nice rep. So fight pressure with pressure. Kind of the way the game's played. All right, so let's watch our guard right here. All right, we were down about 6 or 7 linemen some days from class, suspensions, COVID. All right, so just throw him there. You got to give me some guard reps today, Jack. So the guy rushes inside. You'll notice right there, he locks the inside hip and the inside arm out. That's fighting the pressure with pressure right there. All right, that's fighting pressure with pressure right there. He locks it out. Just fight your ass off for me right there, Jack. That's a pretty good rep. Pretty good rep. Same thing with – yes, sir.
Chris, what we're going to do, I think what we'll do is we'll see if anybody's got any questions here now, because I know that you've got another 75 clips for us. Don't you?
Can I stop my share now?
Yeah. Any questions, guys, on the call?
Yes,
Chris?
sir. I've got a question. And I'm Johnny come lately. You probably already went over it, but I coached offensive line for 1 season, and I got into headbutting. I don't know if you call it a competition with our OC head coach, but I was watching your clips and I saw they're not directly drop kicking. They're not vertical stepping backwards. And that's what he wanted. And I thought to myself, kind of what you're doing is like they're widening out as they're getting depth. Does that make sense? What I'm asking is what's your theory behind widening with the tackles as opposed to just vertical kick sliding?
Yeah, I'm not a big vertical backup. Mike Leach, Texas Tech, I guess Mississippi State. Now, I'm not a big vertical set guy. The only time I will go vertical with the tackles is you saw the one clip we call a dragon set. We get a loose 3 twist situation, or we get an overload type situation to where now they overload you. Fuck, they're going to be twisting and people are moving. But that's the only time that I'll go vertically back on a dragon set, but I only do it for 2, maybe 3 times, and then we got a dragon to a kick. So I'm not a big vertical set guy for a couple reasons. Unless your quarterback is extremely tall, all right, we want to keep the pocket expanded and wide. I figure this, the tighter I take them, the tighter I take the guards, even the tighter I take the tackles, now I create 1 throwing lanes. Okay, I had Drew Tate in Calgary. I had Kevin Glenn. Those are not tall quarterbacks. Okay, so the more we can take them tighter and expand the pocket, one, it gives them throwing lanes, and two, it gives us some scramble ability. So I like to take them tight because I want the quarterback to be able to step and throw. That answer your question, sir?
Yes, sir. It kind of, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I wish you were in the same room that I was in when we were having this discussion. He was hardcore vertical set. I did my duty, but I always felt like it just made a lot more sense. I mean, I wasn't thinking about the quarterback throwing lanes or nothing about that. I was just worrying about getting the guys blocked. And
I think this. My feeble mind works this way. The quicker I can get my hands up in and on them, the less time they got to get going.
Exactly. That was
if
my
I
thought
back
process.
up, I'm giving them space. I'm giving them two-way goes. So I want to take the fight to them.
Yeah, I looked at it like, let's shrink the distance between him and me. If I got a wide 5, let's shrink that distance, get there quick, and then maybe get some vertical set. I don't know. I mean, I'm a DB guy at heart. This was like the first time I ever worked on offensive line. So that's why I asked what your theories were behind that.
Like I said, I use that, what I call it, an alleyway. I will find his inside foot, and I want to think 1 yard inside of that foot. And if I drew 2 lines, 100 yards of field, I call it the alleyway. If I can take that defender somewhere within that alleyway or wider, I got a pretty good chance of winning.
Sure.
All right. If I take him inside that alleyway, now we're in for one hell of a fight. That's just my theory. And I learned that in rookie camp there, Paul, in Florida, when we got 80 some reps, and I had to do something the rest of the day. And I started tracking it. I was like, well, this defensive end's beating him. I'm like, whoa, shit, he's getting there 5 seconds later. So that's where I came with that alleyway. So when I do the one-on-ones with the tackles, I will go stand behind the defensive end in his inside foot, and I'll put one of my feet directly behind his inside foot, and I'll spread my legs 3 feet. And when he makes contact, I can tell whether or not we won the alleyway battle.
Thanks, Chris. All righty. Now, a little after all that pass pro stuff, Gabe Robinson's gonna maybe debunk some of the myths here. And Gabe and I have known each other for quite a few years. Gabe's a Peterborough boy, played some football at U of T, went on and played with the Argos, defensive line special teams player. Was fortunate enough to take a Grey Cup ring away from Craig Smith on the call here and Richie Hall. They both chatted with me about that a couple weeks ago, Gabe. I should have had you wear the ring and actually show it to them. But Gabe's an excellent teacher. I've had the opportunity to learn a lot from him, and he's going to kind of take us through some of the basics of D-line play. So,
all right. Well, here we go. Thanks again, everybody, for having me. Rick asked me to talk about some details to do with defensive line, and since we had such a great presentation just now from Sweet, I think it's worth pointing out that he's talking about a rather advanced level of football play. My aim today is to be a little bit below that, somewhere between high school and university level, but there's a lot of details here that applies all the way from the very top to the very bottom of football. So I'm going to talk about defensive line play in general. I just have to mess around here a little bit and get my own face off the damn screen. There we go. I think that worked anyway. So yes, here's what we're going to look at today. I'm going to talk very briefly about the idea of different styles of defensive line play. We'll go through a 3-point stance, some of the details there. We'll look at what the read step is as a piece of all defensive line play. And then we'll move on to what the actual reads are and what I like to call versus block techniques. So I'll explain all this stuff as we go. More than happy to field questions as we go or save them and we'll look at the end. So the 2 styles of defensive line play, and this is not the whole package, there's more to this conversation, but for the sake of this discussion, we're really talking about these 2 styles. One is control style, the other is attack, or also known as penetrate style. To make this very simple, control style is a little bit more advanced. You generally don't see a lot of this at the high school level, but what we're really asking in this instance is to have the defensive lineman engage with the offensive lineman, get our hands on, maintain our leverage, make a read being the key to this, and then we pursue. You need some pretty athletic players. You don't need the most size and skill, but you certainly need some athleticism and some intelligence. If you look at this little graphic on the right here, we're saying we want to play through our opponent, meaning we play through our engage and then make our secondary read in the backfield. On the other hand, attack or penetrate style of defensive line play is really what everybody plays at high school. You line the guys up, you send them up the field. The important thing here is that you're not so much asking for your defensive linemen to put their hands on a guy. You're asking them to clear the offensive line and get into the backfield, find the ball and pursue. Aggression is an important part here. Vertical movement is important here. You can do a lot with very little here because, again, it's very simple, very easy to coach, and very straightforward. From athleticism point of view, you really need the ability to get fast and then redirect once you've made a secondary read. The key here is we're saying we're trying to play past the man. So as my little illustration goes here, you're simply trying to get into the backfield, get hip depth, and move forward. So now that we've sort of talked about the two styles, let me be very clear that these are not fully separate ideas. These ideas are related. Any kind of defensive line play you're going to deal with will borrow from both of these. It's up to you as coaches to figure out how much of this stuff you want to have to bother to coach with and to bother to teach. And a lot of that depends on what coaches you have, what skill you have, and so forth. And I missed one point there. The point is, most importantly, what style of defensive line you're playing should inform your three-point stance and a bunch of these other details. So looking a little bit more closely at the style of defensive line play as time rolls, here's the kind of, I call these sort of causality charts. This is a sort of a sense of what happens over the course of the play. As the clock starts to wind, we go from a three-point stance when we're playing attack style into an attack step. We work past the offensive line, find the ball and pursue. Very simple. On the other hand, things are a little more complex with the control style of defensive line play. Looks the very same in the beginning. We go from a good three-point stance into a read step. During the read step, we make a read. That will inform a set of versus block decisions or reads. And these are the simple 5 blocks. We'll talk about this stuff a little bit more in some more detail here. As you can see, when we're talking about attack style of defensive line play, really just 3 stages: get in a good stance, go get the ball. When we're looking at the control style, even if you're only using a few of these ideas, there's a little bit more to it. It's not terribly tough to coach, but if you've got the time and the talent, you can get a lot out of a player if you ask them to do this extra stuff. Very quickly, we'll look at the differences here. 3-point stance versus when we're looking at read versus attack, there's a couple of main variables. And the big question is about whether or not you're trying to get your guys to get up the field quickly, or you're trying to enable them to move laterally to do some of this read and control style play. So we will talk about the width, we will talk about stagger, foot stagger, and we will talk about weight distribution. That's into your front hand and into your feet. Pretty simple stuff. I think you all understand this stuff intuitively. As we build our 3-point stance and as you coach your 3-point stance, you're going to need to keep some of this stuff in mind and some of the little details in the way that you want to control this stuff to advantage, give your players an advantage. So I call this the refrain. This is what every time I've coached defensive line, I'm singing this song over and over. It goes like this: feet shoulder width apart, toe to instep, toes to target, sink into your hips, roll into your down hand, good flat back, eyes are up, load your up hand. That's the 3-point stance. You think I could come up with a better acronym sometime to make this teaching stuff easy? Usually what I end up doing is I say this 500 times every practice, and by the 3rd or 4th practice, you get some of the players to start to say it for you. And eventually they're running their own drill. You got to check back with this stuff throughout the season, make sure everybody's on target. The point being, you have to start well to end well, the old cliche. But if we can get these pieces together, we have a really good chance of dealing with what is in fact a very formidable task, which is dealing with big guys who know where they're going, know when they've got to go there, and we're going to use intelligence and speed to deal with the advantages that these guys have physically. So we'll go through very quickly all of these details as we just talked about. I'll throw a couple of the coaching points at you and take from this what you will. First of all, feet shoulder width apart. The detail here. You need to be good and balanced. Wider feet is going to give you better ability to move laterally into some of these control style of defensive line play. Narrower feet is going to get you up the field a little bit faster, more like a sprinter. Toe to instep. Just as it sounds, we want a bit of a stagger. Again, if you go for a larger stagger, you're going to get a little bit more explosive up the field. If you have a shorter stagger, you certainly will slow yourself down, but you can move laterally. Think about the way that you would set offensive line feet positions. Some of this stuff works the same for D-line. If we want to get up the field, give yourself a good stagger and a narrow stance. If you need to move laterally, narrow up the stance and shorten up your stagger. There's your toe to instep. There's your variations in stagger. Toes to target is an important one. This one matters mostly with younger kids. When you're dealing with, later high school and university guys who seem to have all of their body parts in a line, but you still get a lot of stagger and a lot of duck feet and a lot of poor things. Again, if you want to splay those toes a little bit more, you are going to have a little bit better lateral movement coming off of the ball. Good straight feet, or even a little bit of a inward point will improve your upfield movement. So just like Goldie said last week, in COVID, it's very hard to find models for photographs. So I use this old guy who's only got one leg. The point here, the next piece, if I put all this back together, feet shoulder width apart, toe to instep, toe to target, sink into your hips is the next piece. The important part here is that we are taking depth without bending over. Taking depth means sinking down into our hips, using our big muscles, engaging the glutes, engaging the quads, big muscles in the back. We're not rounding our back. We sink down into the hips. And again, the key here is that we're engaging and loading up some of those big muscles. And particularly with younger players with less flexibility and less leg strength, they sort of bend over and put themselves in a really bad position, in my opinion, completely defeating the whole point of getting into a three-point stance. So shoulder width apart, toe to instep, toes to target, sink into your hips. The next detail is we roll into the downhand. The idea of rolling into the downhand is a way to talk about us deliberately, in a controlled way, with great balance, moving our weight forward into that hand. And again, with lots of control. We don't just plunk our front hand down without any real thought to how we're controlling our weight balance. We roll into that downhand. And when it comes to weight distribution, we're talking about roughly 2-to-1, 70-30, something like this. You can make some changes to this as a coach. If you want the guy to get up the field a little more quickly, put a little more weight in that front hand. If you want to get the guy to be able to move laterally, execute some of this versus block stuff a little bit better, pull some more weight back on the feet. All right, moving on here. The next piece, now that we've rolled into the downhand, a couple of details about that, about body position that are really important coaching points. We want to make sure that we end up with a very good flat back and our eyes up. I'll bring in a couple of animations here. Nice flat back. Looks like this guy might have played football one time, even though he's a cripple. And the eyes are up. To that point, it's important, in my opinion, that you do not get your kids in neck rolls. You make sure that these guys are in small pads. As we move on to the eye set question, the big point here is that you can see the football, we're periphering the football, and the secondary point is that we have to be able to see our opponent, the man directly across from us. That is where we will make our read. That is where our keys will exist. When it comes to hand position, I like this look, sort of like a pistol or a sprinter's start or a pincer. And in my opinion as well, especially if you're working with younger kids, you've got to get the hand strength up. You can't make tackles if you aren't strong in the hands. And a lot of guys are going to be putting their knuckles down and fists and stuff. In my opinion, that is all bullshit. Get your fingers down. It does give you a little bit of a boost off the line. You can't see it in my little animation here, but it is important to have your fingers down. That's how you play football athletically. Get to a knuckle and things actually get worse, in my opinion. So the next detail, and I know my video is not ideal here, but we're talking about loading the up hand. So again, we sink into the hips, we roll into that down hand, and that up hand is the hand that is not down. And you'll see here, this arrow points to it. You can see the elbow. I've loaded that up. And what we're saying when we load is that we're getting our hands ready to fire under and up and into our opponent to protect ourselves and maintain our position. There is a debate about where you put that up hand. Different coaches will coach different things. In my opinion, I think you want that up hand sort of like a holster. You might say holstered, or you might say on the hip. It depends partly on your punch technique. The big advantage, in my opinion, when it comes to this up hand for having it holstered or on the hip is that when you get a pass read, a normal pass drop with a kick slide, we can turn that into a drive, an arm drive, and get ourselves moving up the field very quickly. If you dangle it in front of yourself at the sternum or under the cage, I recognize that it gets you into a thread punch much easier, but it doesn't generate a lot of this under and up power, which is such an important thing when we're facing large men across from us. So that's the 3-point stance. Anybody have any questions so far? Shall I just keep going?
Gabe, I know the answer, but talk a little bit about your small pad rationale.
That's one that I sort of figured out in my third year of university, and that was that at least in those days, pads were built to actually protect the chest. And that makes sense if you're thinking of pads as trying to protect the player. The reality is I don't ever want an offensive lineman's hands on my chest. And I did everything I could to give him no handles. So I cut as much of the plastic out of my pads as I could. If you looked at those pads, I think they had to throw them out when I was done with them, but they were only about this wide through the center. And what I did as a defensive lineman was consistently get my hands into that great big set of handles that sits on top of the offensive lineman's chest. So I used those handles to play football to the benefit of myself and the problem for the offense. In my opinion, you don't want a target, and you certainly don't want anything that the offensive lineman can grab onto. So that's why I like small pads. I try to find things like quarterback pads and then cut all the chest plate out of them. If you're playing good football as a defensive lineman, you're not going head to head with guys. We're trying not to get in tight like this. Every time we go head to head with this guy, even if we get our head to the right side, we pretty much lose those fights because we end up blind, and these guys are simply stronger and bigger than us. So if we give them no target, we remind ourselves that we're not invincible with our big set of pads. We will defend ourselves, and we will use our hands to our own benefit and to the detriment of our opponents by giving them no target and no set of handles. Hopefully that answers your question, Rick. Yeah.
That's good, but you're, I think your camera was off though, wasn't it? To show us what you were showing us. Just giving you a hard time now.
Oh, I don't think it. Well, I don't have it off, but hopefully it's working. Let me know if we've got a problem here. I was gesticulating wildly and doing a lot of this stuff. So anyway, I'll move on. You tell me if the camera's not working. We're going to do a quick 3-point stance review here. Again, featured with the part. This is the refrain. This is the song that you end up learning as you coach this. Toe to instep, toes to target, sink into the hips, flat back, eyes up, roll into your down hand, load the up hand. You don't want your players thinking about this before a play. You want this stuff in their bodies before they ever take the field. They know the stuff inside out. And when you're looking at film, you say, look, you rounded your back. Look, your up hand was in a bad position, and so on. It's just the usual football checklist stuff. In my opinion, you got to learn this thing as a chunk and move on. So once we find ourselves in a good 3-point stance, we work out our eye set. Our eye set is we peripher the ball on one side. We're going to move when it moves, and we're going to see the man across from us. That'll move us into once the ball moves. That's the only thing that can get us moving. And as a small point here, I think it's really important to make sure that as coaches, we don't train our defensive linemen to go offside on verbal cues. It's very tempting to go, here's a bunch of coaching stuff, ABC, blah, 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 ready, down, set, hut. The fact is we've got to train them from day one to move on a football, on a string or on a stick or what have you. Training them to go offside is a really bad idea, and it can cost our defense a great deal. It can cost our team a great deal. When I say punish failure, sure, make them run laps or whatever you want to do. One thing that's kind of fun is after every game, if you've got offsides on your unit, make sure that the players who made the mistake get out the glitter and the glue and the cardboard, and they make an apology card for the whole team. The end of the first practice, get them to stand up and go, I'm sorry I went offside twice. I made a card. It's got some bubble letters and so on. And pretty soon they'll get the point that it's not that serious, but it's actually a pretty big damn deal, especially when on D-line we tend to have stats in the 1s and 2s at best, a couple of tackles and a couple of sacks on a good day. So if we can take all that away with one first down coming on a 5-yard penalty. So I think it's important to make sure we don't train our guys to fail and that we punish the failure in some playful and constructive way. All right, what's next? As the clock rolls, as the play begins, we get into our read step. And of course, that read step is going to get us into a set of reads. So the purpose of the read step, as you probably guessed, we're trying to start moving in great body position. We want to maintain our depth, stay nice and low. And we want to, of course, link our first movements, which is our read step, to a set of reads and the techniques that correspond to that. We will talk about that in a moment. So here's the read step in very short terms. It is a short, quick, aggressive, crisp step with our back foot. Boom, just like that. If you missed the animation, there it is. And we essentially replace our down hand, and then we load our up hand as well. Our down hand becomes another up hand loaded. The most important thing about the read step is that nothing else changes. Your eyes are open. You only move because the ball moved, and you did not change your body position. This leads us to the next detail, which is, I'll cover this in a moment, but we're really trying to start with our read step, every play with a short controlled step in great balance. And during that step, we make a read. What are we reading? First foot from the offensive line is a good place to start. Depending on what level you're coaching, what kind of offensive lineman blocking schemes you see, you may choose to make some different changes. I'm going to explain these versus block techniques according to a set of foot movements. And I think I'll make this pretty clear. Hopefully you understand it. The read will be happening quickly. We get a trigger when the ball moves, and our eyes don't have to move because we can see the offensive lineman's feet, and we're going to make a response to that. All right, and that read, as we say, is going to determine our second step, which is our technique versus block. So we'll get into that stuff right here in a moment. Who's that handsome devil? He looks old. All right, what I'm talking about here is a bird dog drill. This is just a good way to train the first step, that read step, and to point out that this little but very important set of movements is a very singular set of movements. We're not moving our whole bodies. Our foot replaces our down hand, and we load our down hand. That's all that happens. So when we do the bird dog drill, you line everybody up. The unit takes a good stance. You can do your corrections on the stance. On the ball, you take a read step and you freeze. That's it. If you see my little animation there, replace that down hand, and this is the bird dog drill. Replace it with the back foot, load up, both hands end up loaded. Here's a couple other details. You want no change in level. If you look at this, you'll see that my back has not changed. My head has only changed a little bit, and that's only because I don't have a left knee, and we have no head in change position. My elbows are tight, and you can see that I'm loading up, getting ready to deliver that under and up punch to defend myself. Obvious drill progressions. You can add reads, you mess with the cadence, you add the punch under and up with the freeze, and so on and so on. There's a lot of things that I'm sure as coaches you've thought of that you can add on to this, but this is a good one to do at the beginning of every week. You certainly need to do this in training camp. Make sure that often you've got some chubby, unathletic kids with weak lower bodies. So repeat this drill. Make sure that they can get it into this quick read step with no body movement, no head movement, no back change, no level change. This is critical. All right, here's the bird dog drill in video. It just looks like this, bang. And again, if I had a left knee, I wouldn't even move my upper body at all. But given my advanced years, you can see a little bit of a hump. If this were a player, I would not be happy with that little bit of a heave. All right, so here's the keys. Now we need to talk about, I'm admitting that guy, I guess I'm the administrator. Now we need to talk about the keys. Again, the whole point here is that we're trying to start every play with a good, sharp, crisp step. And during that play, we're going to make a read. The read will determine our next step, our second step. We'll call that a mirror step, and it will determine our technique versus the block. So what are we reading? We're reading first step. If you want to go to the lengths of coaching all of these details that we're about to run into, now we're into the versus block technique details. So that starts with making a controlled read of our offensive lineman's feet. And during that read step, it always starts the same way. We take that hard read step, replace our down hand, and during that step, we're going to read the offensive line's first foot. And the simplest way to think about that is we follow that with a mirror step, which is our second step. We'll go through this in a little bit of detail, try to move along quickly. This is the step we expect when we get a base block. This is the step we expect when we get a reach block. This is the step for a down block. This is, if we get a down block, we're expecting a kick out coming from the inside. If we get a pull, a detach, this is another style of detached block, he's going to step with his opposite foot. And of course, we all understand what a pass block or a kick looks. I recognize that this stuff gets complicated when the offensive line starts to fog their blocks. And there's lots of ways to do that. Hard set is one of them. And our whole system that we're about to talk about is diminished to some degree. It's hurt by hard set. Hard set's a bitch for D-line, especially when we're playing mechanical in this style. But when you're thinking about your control style versus your read style, or pardon me, control versus penetrate, you have both of those systems in your pocket. You're going to perhaps play control style on rundowns. You're going to attack on pass downs. So you'll use that according to down distance situation and so on. All right. Here's our timeline process so far. As the clock winds, the ball moves, we get into our read step. We're making that read. That read leads us to our versus block techniques. And here are the 5 blocks that we just described. We're going to go through these very quickly. We're going to spend most of our time on base block, and then we'll try to put the whole pieces together, all the pieces together. So here are your 5 blocks, just in case it wasn't clear. So we're all saying the same thing very quickly. If I say base, he steps on us, it's this block. If I say reach, this is the block he's trying to produce. It's a horn block or a hook block or a seal block. If we say down block, he's going to get our friends inside. If it's a pull, he's crossing the formation to the far side to block somebody on the far side, trap away. And of course, pass block's pretty obvious. So this is what I mean when I say the 5 blocks. Let's run through the various details. We're going to spend the most time on base because it is in fact the most important. All right, the first thing we get with base block, this is what it looks like for them. Same as always, we make a good crisp read step. We replace our down hand. We see that he is stepping directly at us. This is our cue to for base block. The key here is that our mirror step is slightly to the gap. We don't mirror step right at the man. This is slightly counterintuitive. We need to mirror step into our own gap because we know that contact is imminent. And if we square up with this guy, we're simply going to lose. We have to step with our read step in base to the gap a little bit. Here's my animation to show that we are punching into this man. We punch under and up. We post the inside arm. We will talk all about this stuff in detail. A couple of extra details here. Once we've punched, our eyes are around, not over. That means we're standing up. If we go over, we want to get our hips squared open. There's the feet. And we want to stuff the overrun if it's coming opposite the man that we're engaged with, and disengage man. Disengage smart. So here's a little more detail about base block. There's the block once again. We start the play as we always do with a good, hard, crisp read step. We read that he's stepping on us. Once again, our mirror step is to the gap. When we have base, we can't step to the man. If we step to the man, we get absorbed and we lose our vision. So we step to the gap. What's important here, and now I'm going to talk about some of these very small details about base block again, perhaps one of the most important blocks that we will face on defensive line. The important thing here is that this guy is throwing all of his weight, his strength, his power at us. We are generally not equipped to take on a man of this size with the speed that he has and the strength that he has, but we have to be prepared to start to take him on. So at this moment, we get a slightly wider base with our third step, and we want to play half the man as we punch into this guy. There's the punch animation. When I say half the man, I mean that the energy that we're putting back at this man into our punch isn't square with this man. We're trying to punch into half of this man. We're trying to punch into half of his chest. The reason, again, is that we're generally not equipped physically to take this man on square. In this moment, as we deliver this blow, it's very reasonable to get back into our heels. We want to play on our toes, but into this punch, it's okay to work off of our heels if we quickly get back onto our toes. And at the moment that we take impact, we punch this guy with long, straight arms. I'll talk about these details, but one detail that's often missed is that we frequently have to slip. It means that we've gone into contact here, and we have to take, instead of letting this guy hammer us and drive us backwards, we can slip laterally. Slipping backwards means losing ground and things. We're in a fair amount of trouble. I see that Dom just joined us. I'm going to back this up for his benefit because it's fun. Mirror step. Here comes that offensive line about to pound us. We set our feet. We can work out of our heels, but we're playing half the man with our punch. And upon impact, rather than letting this guy drive us back, we set our hands inside half the man again, driving out of our heels. This is when we can slip laterally. And this is meaning that we're getting ourselves squared into our own gap, which is fine. We can give up these 8 inches, but we can't let ourselves be driven back. It's just important, but a small detail about how you play defensive line when a guy drive blocks you. You You punch like hell to protect yourself. You explode out of your lower body and you let yourself slip laterally. And while you do that, your arms work into lockout. And we'll talk about that in a second here. Your good foot position, once you punch this guy, should look something like this. I'm going to erase everything else. This is great foot position once your hands are on. Once you've punched and locked out, open to the boundary means that we can go any direction. Our gap starts on his hip and works to the boundary. With a stagger in this format, we are able to play any direction into our gap. If we get squared and in fact pointed inwards, we're diminishing our own athletic ability and our ability to get off this guy a great deal. All right, moving on to hands. Very similar. Now I've illustrated the up hand. Forgive the cheesy graphics, but I think they actually work okay. We're going to start the play like we always do with a short read step. And in the process, we're replacing our downhand. Here we are now, and you can remember the image I showed of myself taking this read step. We're going to now punch under and up with good tight elbows. And what we're trying to do is strike the chest plate. Again, we're playing half the man. Strike that chest plate with palm heels, deliver a blow, and latch on. What's important here, again, here's the read we get from the offensive line. He's stepping right at us. It's a drive block or a base block. So we step to our gap with our mirror step. And our second step is inside of him, protecting our gap leverage. Here's our hands. They've gathered under, and now we're punching under and up into our punch at this moment. And we're trying to work with our arms. And this is a very important detail. We're working in the last half of our elbow range. If you can see my arm, I'm very weak at 90 degrees. I'm very strong at about 45 to 0. We're making sure that into impact, we are at 45 to 0 and this very short extension with our arms. I'll cover that in a little more detail in a second. Again, we're playing half the man. There's the drive, the vector that offensive lineman is throwing at us. We're playing to the edge of it. We're not taking it square. We're letting his energy bounce us to slip a tiny bit lateral so that we can maintain our position in our gap and we can diminish his drive, stop the man without giving up ground. So here is a little set of illustrations by me showing me I've taken a good read step. I'm starting to now punch under and up. There's your illustration to show that my hands are firing under. And as I approach, I'm trying to make sure that I get there first. I want to hit first with my hands. And now my hands are going from this under and up, swooping under, attacking movement with my hands. I'm now in the last section, the last half of my extension, and I can now punch to full extension and hopefully stop this guy more or less cold. And that question of slip is another way for me to establish my lockout. We'll talk a little more about that in a second. And the key is at this point, I want to be lower and longer. What this illustration here against no opponent doesn't show is the fact that I'm at the same moment powering with my hips, driving them forward, and eventually I'll end up with basically straight legs as a big post stopping this man. And then my feet start turning over again so that I can be an athlete and get myself into a position to make tackles. All right. So still talking about the hands. This is the question of the strike. We want to strike under and up. We want to strike first. We're firing from flat feet, and we're going from flat feet to fast feet. Flat feet gives us lots of power, lots of explosion. Fast feet lets us play sports, be athletic. The important thing here is the power line. When this guy comes at us, he's trying to come at us very low. He's trying to be strong. He's trying to be fast, and his vector is horizontal. What's important for us is that our hands drive under and up. And the important detail here is into contact. We're actually deflecting him vertical. This sets us down below him. This guarantees that we're below him, lower. And if the low man wins, the old cliche, it still holds up. But we want to get under, inside, and punch that man upwards. And you can do this even against a pretty big man if you can time that last half extension with your arms well and time that little bit of hip slip, so that it allows you a little extra distance to get yourself extended. I'll give 8 inches to get myself locked out. There's nothing wrong with giving 8 inches, especially in Canadian football. All right, so far so good. Here's that question about the last half of elbow range. It looks from here to here. This is, we are not strong at more degrees of flexion than this. This is the range that we want to be punching into an offensive lineman. And again, we're willing to give a little bit of distance. We punch, we can give a little bit of ground, slip a little to our gap in order to work ourselves into a full lockout. Along the way, we want to remember that we want our eyes under the chin, and we want to always be looking around our opponent, not over. In reality, we tend to peek over top, but we want to train our players to look around the man that they're dealing with. All right, I'm going to finish up pretty
Coach,
soon. I'm at about
Coach,
a little under 30 minutes.
I got a question, if that's
Yeah.
okay. I don't want to interrupt
Shoot,
you,
man.
but do you actually have a kid that can go 180 degrees with his arm?
You mean like past flexion? No, I don't think anybody's body can do that. Do you mean 180 straight, which I would call zero? Is that what you're asking me?
I was trying to make a joke. It wasn't a very good joke. Sorry. I apologize.
I get you, man. I get you. All right, let me move on here. Nothing wrong with a little bit of humor. So post, punch, and pull. This is actually the nuts and bolts of what the hands are doing. And since I couldn't take my own photograph without gluing my phone to the ceiling, I thought I'd illustrate it. So I might miss next week if Disney hires me, but here's my animation work. The point is here, we're working under and up, and I showed you the images of myself punching under and up into this guy. The point is that I am extending from slightly bent elbows into this punch, and it looks something like this. There's the illustration to show the impact. Now comes the post and the pull, and the way that we use this kind of leverage to benefit ourselves into this engagement with a offensive lineman. So the next detail here is that we want to post and pull. The first detail is punch. The next one is post, and that's with our man side arm, not our gap side arm. I've got an arrow here to point to it. We want to get to lockout on this side. And again, that lateral slip helps us get locked out if we didn't land our punch perfectly. The other thing we're doing is with the other arm, we're pulling. We're actually drawing this guy closer to him. One way to think about it is you're trying to get your own gap side hand to your own shoulder. The hope is that you've got a handful of your opponent's jersey while you do it. The key here is that we're actually trying to turn this man's shoulders. Once we've turned his shoulders, we've basically broken his power line. We've diminished any power that he has to drive us backwards. If you speak to offensive linemen, when D linemen do this to them, they tend to get mad. It really sucks. They do some things to us that really suck too. But the idea is that we're trying to break his power line, turn his body a little bit. And once we've done that, we can reestablish ourselves fully in the gap with our eyes around, and we can see the backfield and play football. What's important about this whole conversation here has to do with the vector or the direction of movement for the offensive lineman as we take it on. So when he comes off the line, he's got a lot of speed. He's flying at us. We're about to punch him. Right away into our punch, we're actually starting to, in some kung fu manner, rotate him off of ourselves. There's a very important detail here. Remember the Karate Kid thing with the little drum and the little things that went back and forth? The idea is that you don't take these guys on head to head, that you take all of his weight and turn it into a kind of a glancing blow, use it against him in this kind of Zen Buddhist kung fu manner. Remember this is happening at the same time. We're punching under and up. So not only are we taking his weight and turning him with that post move, but we're also punching under and establishing ourselves underneath him and making his energy, his vector go upwards, establishing ourselves underneath him. Low man wins once again. In the meantime, as we take on that impact, we're allowing ourselves a little bit of lateral slip to establish ourselves in our gap and to make sure that all that power that offensive lineman has brought to us is not displacing us vertically. It's just on our own terms, moving us sideways a tiny bit. We will allow a little bit of gap distortion to keep ourselves in that great position. By the time we have ourselves posted and we're pulling, this guy is almost out of energy and we're in great shape. And we are now in a position where we can disengage at will and get ourselves involved in the play. So hopefully my Disney caliber illustrations make sense. There's a lot of small parts that fit together here to make that post punch and pull work. Hopefully I've illustrated in a way that you can pass on to some of your players. Speaking of how we deal with our players, this is, in my opinion, the most, other than core strength and leg strength and power cleans and all this stuff, the most important upper body gym workout movement you can do. I couldn't find an image online that was actually what I'm talking about. I'm going to make this into an incline bench instead of a flat bench. The point here is narrow grip, You're taking dumbbells off your chest. Hammer grip, you're not here, you're here. You're on an incline and you're doing a punch press. In my opinion, there you go up, then you come down, there you go up. This is, in my opinion, the most important upper body strength and applicable set of movements you can do in the gym. In my opinion, if as a defensive lineman you're not doing this, that you're making a mistake. If you're a strength and conditioning coach with defensive linemen, offensive linemen perhaps too, but I don't coach O-line. This is one of the keys, one of the single most important things you can do. I did millions of these and it made a little bit of a difference for me, I'm sure. All right. Now we're going to fly through the remaining 4 blocks that we haven't talked about, look at mostly at the footwork. I'm going to move very quickly here because I think you know a lot of this stuff. We're going to start with reach block. We replace our down hand with a read step. Reach block means that he's going to step to move laterally very quickly and to win he's trying to get us out of our own gap responsibility. We understand that this is the block that's coming. So our mirror step the first step when we get reach is a small, quick lateral step. And I'll show you in a minute how that looks with movement. The second step is the most important for us. And that's a hard, aggressive crossover. You might call that a crossover burst. Pretty important detail here. We're going to take a couple more steps and then we're going to bring the fight to him, get ourselves into great open hip position. This is a key for reach. You might ask, why would you build this technique in for all of the expense of building technique? The important thing is for your supporting linebacker when you have an uncovered gap inside. This is the linebacker I'm drawing here to show you the guy that I'm worried about. He is controlling this gap. If we attack and ride that reach block, he can simply play that gap beautifully. Nothing changes very much for him. If we dip under that because that reach block just beats us, he's actually got a really tough play to the boundary, and I don't like his chances. And this guy, for that seal block, generally, if we're inside, doesn't even have to block us. We're already out of the play because it's toss or something that's speed beats us to the edge. And now we've got an outside linebacker getting beaten 2 for 1. It's a problem. I think the reach block's a really valuable and important piece of what we can do with D-line. Down block, this is, of course, part of the trap game. We start with a read step. We see that down block. Both of the detached blocks you can coach. Basically, we want to just go get the guy. Go after your man if he detaches inside. So here we're going to step with our read step. We're going to step at the man. We go right into him. We bang him. The technique is called deliver down. Hammer his epaulet, hammer his hip, try to pivot him offline, make sure that whoever he's trying to block inside gets an extra split second of time with an unbalanced offensive lineman trying to run down on him, and then be ready for the kick out because it's coming. Whether you want to play that wrong arm inside, whatever you want to do, but that's how we're going to play that down block. The pull block is the other detached block. We start to play the same way every single time. He steps open with his opposite foot. He's running away to try to be a part of the trap game on the far side. So our first step, our mirror step, is we're going to just go get that guy. The coaching's fairly simple in this respect. We just track him down. We know that somebody's going to try to peel us off of him. That block will come from the backfield or underneath. We got to be ready for it. But the hip pocket or the tractor trailer or the big rig or whatever the technique you want to call it, we just get into his hip, into the shadow of that offensive lineman's hip, and I say run up his heels, trip this bastard, trip him, and you'll arrive right at the point of attack. It's a pretty killer way to deal with a scheme game. Finally, pass game. Again, what Sweet said tonight, there's some things that quick set will make this very problematic for us. Quick set's a bitch no matter what you do unless you've got a really nice wide 5. But the pass game's pretty obvious. We start the same way as always. We get a kick slide or a pass key, and that brings us as our mirror step. It turns us into a sprinter. So for 2 steps, we are sprinters. We're flying up the field. We engage our pass rush, attack a point, have a plan, move the man, the usual stuff. That's not what we're talking about today, but that's the key that gets us into a pass rush. So here's a quick review before I finish up. Now I'm simply looking at our responses, our versus block techniques as they relate to the 5 blocks, but now I'm looking at them as they are simply movements for the defensive lineman. So this is kind of like a route tree. I like to do this with each position on the defense. We go, what are the movements we're going to have to do ever? So for defensive line, if we get base blocked, we step into this man and we do the stuff that we just talked about a little earlier. There's your base block. If we get that reach step, we know the block's coming. It's a hook block. It's a seal block. We go laterally hard, diagonally up, and we take the fight to him. That's the block. We've now defeated it. We ride this out, or we come under, whatever we plan to do. When we get the down block, we go bang this bastard. If we get the pull block away, it's a hip pocket. We get right into the shadow of this guy, big rig, let him drag you all the way down the line and blow up that trap on the far side. And of course, pass block, well, hell, we go pass rush. Pretty simple. You might ask, why, through all of this, do we bother to have this higher level of complexity with respect to our defensive line? There's a couple of details. I don't need to sell it to you, but the big reasons are this. We're going to get some 2-for-1s in the running game. We can do a lot more versus the run with fewer defensive linemen. And that means more cover guys, and that gives us a whole lot of advantage in certain types of downs and situations and so forth. So the big reason is we can do a lot more with less. And sometimes when I say less, I mean lesser defensive linemen, smaller guys, less athletic guys. If they're smart and they're quick, you can do a lot of good things with these guys, even if they're physically generally outmanned. All right, I'll fly through this. This is just something I threw at you guys a couple of weeks ago. The point here is that if we're going to end up with a tight alignment, we're very strong against a lot of that scheme and a lot of that running game. We are a little less strong against the pass. When it comes to all of our versus block techniques, pardon me, first I want to say that hard set is a real bitch for us if we're in a tight alignment, but we can slant inside and do some damage that way. If we look at the weak alignment, we have some benefits and some costs. We're a little bit weaker against the passing game. We stretch up that surface a little bit, much easier to trap. But our pass rush is a whole lot stronger. So when you're designing your defense and you're adjusting from attack style to control style, or however you choose to write this stuff in, understand alignment is another important thing. It's hard to get inside from a loose side, but you can definitely run some good games and stunts. So again, the idea is a wide alignment is going to help your pass rush a fair amount. Second last slide of the night. How much of this versus block technique do you think you want to coach? Well, let me put it to you this way. The first point is you're already going to coach some pass rush technique, and you're probably already going to coach some base block technique. These are key core details, whether you're playing control or attack. It's in every detail, every team, every defense. Do you want to deal with the reach block as I explained it? Well, that's an important detail as well. You may or may not agree that you want to bother to write that in. If you did, you're already 3/5 of the way along. And all that's left is these two detached blocks, and they're complex in their way, but they're also as simple as saying, if your man detaches inside, go hit him. So you can simplify this stuff. You can break it down into very simple terms. If you want to coach this sort of more advanced versus block techniques, this read and control style, I'm trying to say that it is complicated. It takes a fair amount of work, expense, time, etc. But it's not that much more work than simply your 2 out of 5 blocks, which you have to have anyway. You just add a couple extra details, and you can phase them in according to opponent and so forth. So let's do a very quick recap, and then I'll pass the mic. Feet shoulder width apart, toe to instep. This is the song. Toes to target, sitting into the hips, flat back, eyes up, roll into the down hand, load the up hand. I know it's an awkward bunch of ideas, but once you got it, you got it. You make sure your guys have it, and you check it on every given play. That is your 3-point stance. Your 3-point stance includes your eye set, you peripher the ball, you see the man, you move on the ball only when the ball moves. As the clock starts to run on the play, we move into our read step, and we start to make our read. And that read, it leads us to our second step, our mirror step, and our execution, and that versus block technique. And finally, here are those 5 blocks. Hopefully I explain them in a way that everybody understands. You can build this stuff however you like, but it's a great way to shut down the scheme game. It's a great way to get a lot of value out of only 3 or 4 guys. And it means that your base defense can do a lot more work without having to send pressure and do a lot of confusing stuff. You can sit back with more linebackers and cover and so forth. So when all of this is said and done, please don't lose sight of the fact that you need to make sure that these guys are thinking, seeing, reacting. And once they've executed this technique, just go play football. That's a really important piece. All right, there's the end of my presentation. There's my email address if anybody wants to talk to me about any kinds of details that I may have missed or any further questions. who's that? Before I pass the mic, I know I ran a little bit over time. I apologize. Does anybody have any questions for me before we move on?
I had a question. Great stuff, Gabe. Thanks, as always. Once you've established your contact and done your block, you've mentioned lateral movement. Is that always to the left or in the same direction, or should you try and vary it a little bit?
No, maybe I should have mentioned this. It's really always simply going to be away from the opponent that you're shaded on. So you could invert that image and get perhaps the right defensive end just for the sake of continuity and trying to make it easy to digest. I just always used a defensive lineman on an outside shade on a offensive lineman. So, and that question of lateral slip is just one of a couple of ways that we deal with this problem of very big, strong guys flying at us, trying to drive us backwards. So again, sitting down and taking that stuff on square in Canadian football, when he basically gets a yard to run on us, we don't win a lot of those battles without some trickery. And that trickery includes the under and up punch, the playing half the man, and understanding that despite all of that, we're often just going to get dislodged a little bit. So we use that dislodgement, that little bit of bounce, big ball, little ball, instead of letting that kick us backwards, we anticipate it and let it kick us sideways as we, in that very critical moment, work our way into a lockout, so that now we've got all of the separation we need to continue to play football. Because as Chris Sweet said recently, he's trying to go dick on dick with you, right? They want to be blocking us like this. We want to be here, well separated from the guy, not even here, because imagine arms in here. We want to be here. And once you've got that full separation, you don't even need technique to get rid of the man. The times that you need technique, like arm over arm, under rip, all of that stuff, is when we're actually in tight. And in a sense, we've already lost when we're in tight. If we're face to face with these big guys, we've already lost. The point is to keep them well away. When we don't need them anymore because we know where the ball is going, we just let go and go make tackles. So hopefully that answers your question, but that slip is just a small trick to avoid getting driven back. We anticipate and slip as we take on that impact. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks,
Hey,
Gabe.
quick
That was
question,
great.
guys.
Thank you. Oh,
Guys, quick question for you, Gabe. Sorry I came
Yeah,
late because
Dom.
we had an offensive meeting tonight, so that's the reason why I got there late. But hey, pretty neat presentation, by the way. I'm gonna watch it again on YouTube tomorrow. But hey, have you talked, or are you planning on talking about out handling double teams? Like that, I would be curious to hear you. Like,
I could do that on another night, or we could just pick up a meeting some other time. I consciously left it out. It really is the sixth block. I talked about the 5 blocks. The 6th block is important. Most of the time when you talk about double team, we know that we can't defeat 2 men. So we try to play one of the 2 men. And
Right.
generally we're trying to make a pile. If we can, just drop their feet, drop their knees. Blatz it is one of the terms, meaning tackle both of those bastards. The other thing that's really important and frequently thrown around is as a D-line, we say, hey, we already got 2 for 1. So we're actually winning as long as we don't get driven back. So that's one of the reasons we try to fight to 1 man. But often what you try to do is you try to figure out who the chipper is. And you do that with film. Who's the guy who's supposed to get second level? Get your hands into him and fall backwards. There's a whole lot more to it, but just because I don't want to get off of here before I take too much time, that's a sort of simple approach. If I've got to say a guard and I realize that the tackle's blocking down and chipping, I would transfer to him and get a hand on his outside arm or outside shoulder pad, and I would sit into the original offensive lineman, and I try to just make a pile, bring this guy down. And at that point, your coach is hopefully yelling at you every day saying, we want 2 for 1s. Anytime you get a 2 for 1, I'm buying you a pizza. So the point being there is you're trying to make sure that you get, thank you for sharing. The point is you're always trying to get 2 for 1. And even more important than that, you're trying to make sure that the chipper, the guy going second level, is controlled.
right, so you teach him to drop the knee instead of the box out technique there.
I've encountered the box out technique, and it sort of looks like basketball in a funny way. A lot of those sort of playful, get your hands up stuff. It's like, if these guys are any good, before you think twice, you're 5 yards backwards, right? So I actually don't think it makes a lot of sense to be cute. It makes a lot of sense to, with film, figure out who the guy is going second level and basically tackle him. You can do a lot better in that respect than try to figure out a way to just sort of edge out or block off, that sort of cut-off approach to the second level man. Again, I kind of tried to leave that out because I was trying to leave it tight and not go too far over time. But
Right.
blew it on the second front.
It's fine. Thank you.
Well, Gabe,
Yeah,
we
no.
got a D coordinator going on the 5th and a D coordinator going on the 12th. So if one of those nights matches up for you, we'll get you back on.
Sure.
I think you got Dom working for you there,
step off,
Gabe.
man. I know I went over time.
I think you got
All right,
Dom
love you,
working
man.
for you. He's bringing you back as well, just like Sweet. You guys are going to be repeat customers here. Ray, did you have a question for Gabe?
Yeah, I was just wondering, read step, inside foot? Or does it matter?
You're always starting with that stagger foot. It does matter a fair amount. And you're right, I didn't cover this, but if these are my feet and over here is the opponent that I'm working on, I want to stagger the near foot, the foot that is closest to my opponent. The reason being I want to be stepping to him with my read step. And the second step, the biggest argument for staggering our man side foot, dropping the man side foot, is if we make that read step and he steps to reach us, the next step has to be that T step, that lateral step like this. And if we do that inverted, we have to sort of double clutch on our outside foot, and we're actually beat by that point. So there's a bunch of reasons, but the main one is we're staggering the man side foot so that once we make our read step, if we get the reach, we can T step and then get into that hard crossover. Gives us a chance to play to the boundary. Always stagger the man side.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Gabe. So I played the attack style a lot with the young kids, and I spent a couple summer with this old guy who taught me all this stuff. And I tried to take it back to the 12, 13-year-olds. Had a little bit of problem with it. So any advice? I know it's a lot, and then we get less time with the young kids. But any advice on teaching this more of a control thing to 12-year-olds?
Yeah, I think your best bet is to spend a lot of time on base block, and start with the attack style. It's a simple swing. You line the guys up, you get them in a good stance, and you get them to fly up the field. By all means, it is you get the most for the least with respect to the amount of time and energy that you have. If you want to start to add some of that control stuff, you got to understand what you're trying to do and why it's valuable. If you don't face anybody who runs, for example, traps and schemes, it simply might not be worth it. If you want to have a 40 front and send a backer all the time, it's probably not worth it. You're overwhelming the front five anyway. So just mix up your stunts and spend your coaching time doing other stuff. Now, over the course of many seasons, the same players will get better and better. The piece of advice I would give you is to say, get really good with base and then add the detach blocks, the down inside and the pull away. And just say, we're stepping on those bases. And the only big difference, if we get that detach inside or cross, is go get that guy, hammer him. You basically just go attack that guy. And once you get them starting to turn their feet when they feel that detach, and it's hard to do with 13-year-olds, I recognize that's a challenge, but a couple of weeks into the season, you start to introduce these detach blocks. And as soon as you can get them to, instead of just running up the field and going, oh God, I'm in the wrong place, that they make that read step, they see that the guy's detaching, and they start to step inside aggressively, you've got the beginnings of two more out of those 5 blocks figured out. And with a little bit more practice, you've got scheme, trap, and all that stuff defeated with just a couple D linemen running good technique. After that, reach. I think reach is the hardest one for high school. Most kids in university can't even beat reach. And so most coaches just say, if he reaches you, fine, attack him to his back hip and beat him upfield. Well, if they're trying to seal you for real, as opposed to slide blocking and zone blocking. If they're really trying to depend on that seal block and you're inside of him, you're beat already because it's fast flow outside, right?
Yep.
So it doesn't matter. Reach block's great. It's a little bit more of what I think of as kind of a small field stuff on the weak side. You get one of these defensive ends who's sort of linebacker hybrid D-line guys, and you teach him all these skills so that by himself, he will always be sliding across the line of scrimmage no matter what boundary attack you throw at him on the backside. That's where that sort of all of this technique comes from, the American game. Things shift a little in the Canadian game with that yard off the ball. It's a benefit to us in some ways and it hurts us in others. But yeah, real quick, I would say start with those detached blocks once you're really good at base and just go get that guy, tackle him, knock him down. No ref will ever call you for tackling an offensive lineman. So anyway, we can talk more about it another day, John.
Yep, no problem. Thanks, man.
Yeah, brother.
Good stuff, Gabe. Thanks again. And anybody that's sort of watching or joining us tonight, Gabe's around all the time every Wednesday. So if any questions come up, don't hesitate. He will always chat football with you. So I've told this story to some of the guys that have been on with us for a while now. Gabe and I have been friends for years. And like I say, I was a pretty bad high school player and Gabe played pro and he came and spoke at our ring banquet years ago, way back in 05. He'd won a Grey Cup and came back and spoke, got off a plane one day from Europe and was in our arena doing a ring banquet with us. And, he played under Pinball Clemens and, Gabe and I have spent hours and hours chatting football. Another buddy of ours, Jim Cooper, introduced us a few weeks ago to Craig Smith. Craig Smith is right now recovering from leukemia. He's looking for some football stuff to do. He puts me in touch with Richie Hall. I spend a couple hours with Richie and Craig a few Saturdays ago. Richie did a presentation for us a couple weeks ago on takeaways. And then Coach Hall put me in touch with James Stanley. So James is going to be our next presenter. James is a young guy. He's in his early 40s. He's been all over the States. He's coached at high school. He's coached at university. He's been in the NFL. He's been with the Ticats, the Stampeders. He's won a couple Grey Cups, most recently the Toronto Argonauts, the 100th Grey Cup, and then now 2019 with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. James and I spent a couple hours last week. I was on spring break and James agreed to meet with me. We talked for about 3 hours about football, not just how to coach it, but what we need to do in Canada to keep growing the game, what we need to do as far as tackling. So James has a presentation put together for us tonight, but I'll be interested to see what exactly it is he's going to talk about because he's got a lot of great things. And I hope that James, I've only held you up for about 48 minutes. We said shortly after 9 we'd get you on, and because of our other great presentations tonight, we're starting a little bit later. But you've got as long as you need as well, buddy, because I know that you've got some great stuff to present to us. So. I know you're going to go over a little bit more of your resume, but we'll give you the controls and take it away.
All right. Thank you. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Now we got you. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. I'm sorry about that. So again, the topic today, the clinic today, I'm just going to talk about defensive practice planning and drill organization to maximize your time. Just a little bit about my coaching background, defensive backs and linebackers. This is my 10th year coaching in the CFL. I worked in Calgary, Toronto, Hamilton, and now I'm in Winnipeg. NFL intern. I worked with Detroit Lions and Cleveland Browns. I was a college coach at the University of Dayton. It's a 1AA school in Dayton, Ohio. And then I also was a high school teacher and coach before that at Fairborn High School. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Clinic topics, just a couple of things that I wanted to talk about tonight. Practice planning, practice structure, drill organization, and post-practice plan. So it's just 4 things that I wanted to hit. It's really tailored for all levels. I was fortunate enough to be able to have coached at every single level. So I took a little bits and pieces from all of my experiences. All right, so the first thing, just planning practice. First thing, we just have to be organized, right? And the first thing I look for is what area of the field will be used, okay? I understand sometimes when you're in Little League or if you're in high school, sometimes the field may not be lined or you have to move around. You may have to change fields, change locations. So this is very important just to be organized. What area of the field are you going to use? And I'm talking about for Indy, for drills, for team, just everything. So I always want to have a plan. Okay, what equipment is needed? Bags, cones, balls, etc. I understand like everybody doesn't have the same access to all of the equipment. I remember when I coached high school football, we didn't have a lot at all. So instead of cones, we used to actually put shoes down, right? So it just all just depends on where you are, what level you are. You just have to improvise and do the best that you can, but you have to have a plan for all these things. Okay, what coaches, players are involved? All right, so anytime I'm planning practice, I always want to make sure who's involved. I need to know who's going to be involved in that practice. Practice schedule. So in Winnipeg, one of my responsibilities, I create the practice schedule for the defensive side. I make sure all the coaches have one, but I also give practice schedules to the injured players, the video guy, the trainers. I just want to make sure everybody is on the same page of what we're doing defensively. All right. Have a built-in contingency plan. This is important to me because this happened when I was a high school coach. I think it was a little kid named Johnny. Johnny got hurt, and you guys know how it is. Once a player gets hurt, especially at the youth level, everybody just kind of stand around and look. Once you get to college and to pro level, they just move the ball up 15 yards and keep practicing, right? So you really got to have a plan, for that. And also, I put in here bad snaps. When I coached in Toronto, if there was a bad snap on offense, the offense just lost their play. So that was just a wasted play. Like it was no do-overs. But I've also been with coaches that if it's a bad snap, they will restart it. So, got to plan for all those things. Second thing, know your opponent. For me, the big thing, the focus should be on the upcoming game, right? That's why we're practicing. Each practice is to prepare for that upcoming game. All right. So make sure we keep those things in the forefront, the focus. All right. Our practice should reflect what you will see that week in your game plan. Again, just to reemphasize, everything is about the upcoming opponent. All right. So here's a couple things that I like. Get everyone involved, right? So whenever possible, I like to use the whole team on each play if possible. So what I mean by that is, obviously it's 12 guys out on the field at one time, but those guys that's not in, I like to have those guys, far back 30 yards deep, mirroring their position, right? They can still be getting some sort of mental reps. Right. I want to make sure everyone feels part of the team. So it doesn't matter if you're third, fourth, 15, we all have guys on our team that's not going to play. Right. Unless, I don't know, we just have some guys that's just not going to play. So I still want to make those guys feel like they're a part of the team and be involved in practice. All right. Simulate game situations and move the ball. For us, this is big because we want to make players run to the ball and get set, right? The game of football is played fast. So, I've been places where, they run a play from the 20-yard line, that play is over and they come back to the 20-yard line. The next play is at the same location. I've also been places where they treat it just like a game. And I really like that. And that's one thing that, that I prefer, that I would recommend to you guys, is just treat practice like a game and move the ball. It also makes players focus on the next play. And it's just also another form of conditioning. All right. Planning practice. So one of the questions I always get, what is the practice and drill tempo? Okay. So for me, I have two tempos. And the first one is green. Green is full speed all the way to the ball. We finish in good tackling positions with our palms down, tomahawks up. So you might have heard the term tomahawks. You might have heard the term hatchet. Basically, all we're trying to do is, obviously, we don't want to chop the quarterback's arm, but we want to be in position just to simulate just mental reps. So we just want to make sure our hands is up, that we're coming to aggressively attack the ball. And the big thing is staying up, right? So we never want to see guys on the ground when we're playing in practice. And the second tempo that we have is yellow. And yellow is just 5 hard steps to the ball, right? We're not asking those backside corners, those backside DNs to full pursuit all the way across the field, but we are looking for just a change in body angles. All right. So we just want to see those guys move. And so examples of green would be our team periods, no huddle, any scrimmage situations. Again, we're not taking guys to the ground ever. And yellow is just more skelly, our run throughs. I use the term run through instead of walk through, just because I just feel in my experience when players hear the term walk through, a lot of them really just tune it off or they walk those reps, right? So we just still want to run through. Pre-practice drills, so those are all our yellow tempos, right? So I just have 2, green and yellow, similar to traffic stop sign or traffic lights. Just another way to remember it. All right, guys, feel free to stop me at any moment and ask a question if you have one. I get this question a lot on field coaching. You know, where do coaches stand? And so my big thing is this: avoid standing next to other coaches. So, you know, spread out and cover all the players on the field. And I put this in here because when I was a coach at a high school, like all of our coaches used to just stand right behind the quarterback in the middle. And I mean, you'll have 6, 7 coaches just standing there, and we wasn't seeing everybody on the field. All right. So I just put a couple things, you know, and all of this is subject to change, but just some base ideas. D-line coaches, you know, our D-line coaches usually stand near the O-line at an angle to see the blocking scheme and the D-line reactions. The linebacker coach, he's going to stand near the O-line at an angle to see the blocking scheme as well. But sometimes in practice, the linebacker coach will stand behind the center. That way he can see both linebackers' eyes. I keep getting a message about somebody in the waiting room. Is that me? Am I supposed to let him in?
No, I let him in. You're all good.
Okay, you let him in? Okay. All right, just making sure. Okay, and DBs. All right, so now the DB. Okay, so DB coaches, here's a couple things for me. I like to stand between the cornerback and the free safety, right? Off to the sideline. I try to position myself so I can see the whole route concept and the DB's alignments and reactions. Okay. Now, another thing that I do personally, I like to train my eyes for the game. I'm in the box. So at least once a week, I will go into the stands. I'm not going to go all the way to the press box, but I will watch a period from the stands, right? Because for me, I need to be able to relay information fast to Richie. You know, what did you get? What route concept did they run on the weak side or the far side? So I'm just always want to train my eyes. And I believe, you know, you can't really see that from the sideline. And so my advice to you guys will just be, you know, wherever you stand on game day, that's where you should stand during practice. Okay. Keep going. So just some practice structure and organization. All right. So for us, here's some of the things that we have. Okay. Walkthrough, stretch, circuit, pursuit drills, individuals, 7-on-7, special teams, and team periods, and then the walkthrough corrections. All right. So let's just break this down. I'm sure this is pretty much standard. Everybody has something similar to this. However, it's some things that I like to do a little bit different. So walkthrough. So before practice, we're always going to have a walkthrough, right? And our walkthrough is just going to, you know, hey, some of the new calls that we may have for that day or for that week, for that game plan. I also like to use that time to walk through any new individual drills I may do. And stretch. So during stretch, we do something cool in Winnipeg that I really like. It's my first time doing this. O'Shea, this is O'Shea's his thing, and I really enjoy it. So we throw balls to everyone. Footballs. I'm in charge of tennis balls. I actually throw tennis balls to the players. So I walk down the lines and I throw tennis balls to different players just so they can focus on catching the balls with their fingertips. All right. Some of the other coaches will just throw passes to the players during the stretch lines. Some will roll balls to them, so they got to pick up fumbles. But it also gives us a chance to just talk to other groups. Every time I'm out there, I always go straight to the O-line first. So just another chance for coaches just to meet other players. And then we do a circuit. So our circuit is called TNT, and the TNT just stands for takeaway and tackle. Takeaway and tackle. And I'll get into that in a second. Pursuit drills, again, that just reinforces proper angles to the ball. Our individual drills and group drills, we like to cross-train. And what I mean by that is just having receivers and DBs work together sometimes, or maybe it's linebackers and running backs, O-line and D-line, so all of our individual time is not always just with our position groups. 707, pretty standard. Special teams, it's big. Make sure you have a plan for those not involved. Okay. So for example, if kickoff return is out there, you probably won't have too many D linemen on kickoff return, right? So what are they doing on the sideline? The same for if there's any extra DBs or any extra linebackers, like they always have to be doing something on the sideline. So it may just be working on their hands, working, catching the ball, just something on the sideline. Team periods, that's pretty standard. And then walk through corrections. So at the end, we do just walk through corrections. I'm pretty sure all of us coaches at the end of practice bring our group up and we talk to them or, break them down. I like to just use that time to walk through any corrections or just if it's any players that just need some extra work. All right, so here's just a sample of our schedule. Again, I create the schedules. And what I like to do, if you look all the way to the far right, is put in some notes. So in our meeting, we'll go around and coaches may have something that they want for their notes to remind themselves, but it's always something. So we won't spend a lot of time on this, but if you noticed, special teams on period 7, the D line is going to be working on their games. Okay. Special teams punt on period 9, the DBs are going to work on ball drills. So I really like to just stay organized, stay prepared, always have a plan for every minute of practice, right? Just want to always maximize the time that we have. All right. So as I said earlier, just want to talk about our TNT circuit. Again, the TNT is this tackle and takeaway. It's a daily circle. We always do this before individual. It's 3 to 4 groups. It really just depends on the total number of guys that you have. 1 to 2 minutes each group, 30 seconds between drills. And I like to switch up the drills daily. Okay. So what I mean by that is one day, say Monday is tackle, then Tuesday could be takeaway. And then Wednesday could be a different tackle. Okay. And we always want to walk through these stations either before practice or before we start, just so we won't eliminate any wasted time. One of the things that I like about doing the circuit, when I was in Cleveland, in 2010, they started every practice with the whole offense and defense doing a circuit, which I thought was pretty cool. They mixed up the groups. They had the receivers work on tackling. If it's an interception, if the quarterback throws an interception, receivers got to know how to tackle, all those things. So, and then also the DBs, the linebackers, if it was a fumble, they went a circuit group with the running back coach. They had to know how to hold the ball and really secure the ball. So that's part of our tackle. So here's just some samples of the circuit. Again, so tackle, open field, angle, vice, cut tackle, and the numbers behind it is just for me. Like I have 6 different open fields that I can use. I have 4 different angles, 3 different vice tackles, right? I just don't want to consistently just be always doing the same drill. Okay, if that makes sense. So I just want to make sure I'm switching it up. The same with takeaways, right? It's 8 different interception drills you can do, scoop and score, next level, last touch, quarterback tomahawk, bad ball drills. So these are just different ideas, different things that we do. Here's a little visual of our circuit. We rotate and go from there. All right, another big part of just planning practice is scout cards. And this is really important. I don't think it matters if it's pro, college, high school. I mean, everybody's going to have some sort of cards. So scout cards, clear large lines, multiple colors, right? So what I like to do is the wide receivers are red, the running backs are blue. I number the players, clearly define the routes and responsibilities. So if I need a 15-yard dig, I'm going to write 15 yards on there. Proper splits and alignment. This is important. And then highlight pullers. They need to know who goes first, who goes second, and then give copies if possible. So I'm going to show you something here in a second. I like to give copies of the scout cards. The players look at them, bus rides. They take it home for homework. I give out little packages for the players when they get on the airplane, just so they can see them. So again, here's just a sample. I like to hand draw the cards. I have been places where we actually drew them by computer. I just feel I can get a better understanding of save time for one just by hand drawing it. But the big thing that you'll see is the 12 yards. I try to highlight exactly where they're breaking. If you look at 83 and 16, let me see if this pin will work. Okay, so right here, you'll see who goes first. This is a switch release. The running back, he has the B gap, a -2 split, so just 2 yards outside of the hash. He's +3 inside of the number. So I try to really be detailed. Here's the down and distance up here. And then for me, what I like to do is, this was play 38. Hamilton at Montreal. All right. Because what I do is, so we will run this card. The scout team will run this play. Okay. Then we will watch it in practice, but then I will show the practice clip to the players, but then I will actually show them the real game footage. All right. So back to back, so they can see how it's ran. All right, so this is just some of the information I like to have. Again, here's something that I was talking about. I like the little packet that I make for the players. This is just examples of all 41 sets. So I put it all together for them, just make a copy of it, and then just give it to them, right? Because, some guys, especially at high school, some guys may watch film. A lot of guys won't, the same as in the pros. Some guys watch film, some guys don't. So I just try to give them as much information as possible. All right, look team. So look team or scout team, whatever you call it. To me, this is the most important part of practice to me. So I take a lot of pride in this part because I really feel like this sets the tone for the game. This really prepares the players for what they're going to see. Okay. So a couple things about just when you're choosing your look team, carefully select the players you want to use at each position. I just remember being places and, coaches will say, hey, I need 5 receivers. I need a running back and 5 O-linemen. Well, guess what? Everywhere I've been, the D linemen always think that they can be receivers, right? They're going to go run out there and try to be a receiver. They want to waggle, or, you got a linebacker that everybody thinks they're a quarterback. Nobody wants to be an old lineman. So what I like to do is I really carefully select. I'm going to tell players where they're going to be. All right. The big thing, I want to know who will give you a realistic look. For example, I got Banks right here. Banks, Brandon Banks, fastest receiver in the CFL. We only have 2 guys on our team that can emulate that speed that he has. So one of those guys are going to have to be Banks. It does no good just to have Banks is 5'7", right? 5'7", 160 pounds. It does no good to have a 6'4", 235 receiver trying to play banks, right? I'm not preparing my men. I'm not preparing our team for success by doing that. So I think that's another key thing that's important. Backup players should always mirror their position when possible. So if I have used some DBs as receivers, if you're a boundary corner, you need to be the 1 week receiver, if that makes sense. If you're a dime or Sam, whatever you call it, you need to be the 3 strong receiver. Okay, so I always want to make sure they mirror their positions. Find guys that want to make a difference. I mean, I ask guys, you know, when they come to my scout team, the scout team that I have, or my look team, I mean, I have a good group of guys that want to be on there. Like it's, I mean, they want to work. They want to make our team better, and they understand that. This is something that I got from when I was a high school coach, actually. Have a weekly or daily look team award. When I was a high school coach, at the end of practice, the coach, our head coach, used to always say, "Workout warriors" is what he called it. He would say, you know, "Coach Stanley, workout warrior," and I would say, "Josh Copeland," and he would ask another coach. And so it was just a chance for some of the guys that may not get a chance to play in a game or won't play in a game to just get some recognition that they did a good job during scout team that week. Okay, moving along. So drill organization. Again, the purpose of drills is to ingrain, reinforce, or create performance behaviors. All right, so I really think it's important to have organization to our drills. All right, have a reason for, okay, it's a little delay. I see what it is. Have a reason for the drill. Okay, so example, is the drill teaching fundamentals, technique, or assignment, right? The drill teaches or reinforces what we want the player to perform on the field. The drill is safe, and I put pancake on there. I remember playing Little League football, and our coach used to make us lay on our backs, helmet to helmet, put a ball in one of our hands, blow the whistle, and we had to get up and tackle, right? And was it safe? What was it really teaching us? You know, so that always stuck with me to this day now. So I always try to make sure I'm not doing drills just to do them, and that they have a purpose. And again, I want to make sure everything is safe. Teach players concepts. All right. So I'm big on teaching concepts. So all of our drills are going to have a reason or a meaning to do it. Right. So for example, I just throw this out here. I've been on teams that backpedal, and I've been on teams that shuffle. Okay. Well, if I'm on a shuffle team as a DB, I don't need to spend a whole lot of time backpedaling, right? Because that's not the technique that we're using, right? So that's just one example. And I really believe the drills have to reflect the next game. Okay. So what I mean by that is if we're facing a 2-back or 3-back team, like all of our drills and things need to be related to that, right? If we're doing an option team, if we're playing an option team this week, I just remember I played at Toledo. And when I was in college, we played Navy, and Navy was an option team. And all we did all week was worked on the option. That's it. Like it was nothing else. It was option and tackling drills because that's what they did. We didn't do any 7-on-7. We didn't do any pass things because that's what they did. They ran the ball. So that always stuck with me. All right, a couple more things. Teach these guys situational football. I think it's really important that they understand down and distance, area of the field, end of half, sudden change. And this goes for all across all leagues, all levels, right? Because plays are going to change depending on where, the offense is on the field. For example, you're not going to get the same plays on the goal line that you're going to get if they're all the way backed up. So I think that's important. Teach players concepts. We talked about that. But the big thing is they need to understand what a counter is, what a stretch is, what a zone is, right? They need to understand the offensive line movements, for those different run plays. They need to understand what scissors is if they're DBs, right? It's the difference between scissors and cutter. And I'm gonna get to that in a second. Tailor your coaching to the individual athlete. And I really do believe that this still stays true, right? All players can't be coached the same. I mean, when I coached in college, I had some guys that only played 1 year of high school. And then I had some 5th-year seniors in college, right? Those guys can't be coached the same because their football IQ is not the same. All right. So I think as coaches, we have to tailor our coaching to the individual athlete. Okay. Again, what equipment do I need? How much time is needed? All right. This is very important because who has the watch? As coaches, I'm sure we've all done this at some point. We've all started individual. You know, we got our little list. We got all our drills that we want to accomplish, all the things that we want to do. And, oh, man, I ran out of time. I didn't get to this, right? So we have to be conscious of our time, be organized, and then who has the watch. I know for me, I don't wear a watch on practice. It's something that I need to start doing. But Richie, Coach Hall, he always has the watch. He always blows the whistle when it's time to go to our next drill. All right, clearly define expectations of drills, right? So I like to tell the guys exactly what we're doing this for. Listen, so if I'm coaching linebackers, listen, we're going to do a down and out drill, right? I just want to see your eyes. If it's a down and out block, I want you to enter the gap right now. Okay, it's just simple things like that, just so they clearly understand what what it is that they're doing in the drill. This is really important. Know where the camera is. Know where the camera is. I understand you may not have film your practices in Little League or in high school, but college, pros, it's so important to know where the camera is, because one thing that I hate is we're getting our drills filmed for that day, and then we come back in to watch them and everybody's standing in the way, right? So make sure you understand where the camera is. All right. So the next part, I break down the drills in 5 categories, okay? 5 drill types. The first one, footwork drills. And these are just drills that we can become more explosive, change the direction drills. Ball drills. We always want to work on ball skills, ball reaction. For me, I don't care if I'm coaching linebackers or DBs. It really doesn't matter. Every drill, I'm going to have a ball as much as possible, right? Those guys can never get enough reps at catching the ball, because I want it to be second nature. I want it to be natural for them when it happens in the game. Tackle drills. Again, we talked about that earlier. Angles, cut, block, stalk, block, whatever, just working on tackle drills. Coverage drills, our reads, our technique. Our drops if we're linebackers, blitz and pass rush drills. This is important no matter if it's DBs, if it's D-line, if it's linebackers, right? Everybody on defense, have to know how to take on blocks, get off blocks, avoid blocks. For us, we send DBs on blitzes, we send the Sam, we send the halfbacks, corner blitzes, free safety blitzes. So these are something that they all have to work on. Okay, so those are my 5 drill types. Now, what I like to do is have a daily drills checklist. So I have more drills than this, but I'm just going to give you an example. So up under footwork, you see these little tally marks right here. And so say, every time I do a drill, I would just put a tally mark. Okay, I did line flips 3 times. Tomorrow, let me just do some down and outs, put a click there. Tackle drills. I haven't did gator roll in a while. Let me just work on that. So this is just a way to keep me, just to make sure I'm not doing the same drills over, that the players are not getting bored. I don't like, I get this question a lot. Coaches always say, Coach, what are your EDDs? Well, I don't really have EDDs. I have a bunch of different drills that I can do that will, basically do the same thing, but I like to switch it up for the players. All right, so now I'm just going to give you a sample sheet that I take on the field with me. So just say we have a 15-minute indie. So this is a sample of my indie plan. So footwork, we may do footwork for 3 minutes. And I actually print this out and put this on the back of my practice script. All right, so, you know, I'm going to quickly hit the ladder, some bags, line flips. And then again, I'm going to get out there early and I have all these things already set up. Okay. Then I'm going to go 5 minutes with my tackle drills. Okay. They might each get 1 pop each. So now we got 8 minutes, and then we're going to go to some coverage drills. All right. Relate to our threat, QBIs again. And then the next day, all of these may switch. You know, I may do some different ones that I didn't hit on my list. Okay. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? So this is just something that I like to have just to hold myself accountable, just to make sure that these guys are getting multiple looks and not just getting good at one thing. Right. So that's it. Something else for me, I like to just have weekly game drills, run game drills. I'm sorry. So zone, stretch, counter, wham or BTL, just depending on what you call it. But basically in the run game, these are the runs that you're going to get, right? So we need to be making sure we're going to hit these every week, right? So for us linebackers, we're going to hit these different types of runs every day. It could be in walkthrough. It could be during punt, during special teams when linebackers are not involved, or it could be post-practice, after practice. But I want to make sure we're hitting these things, that they have an understanding. And then for as far as defensive backs, you know, weekly pass game drills, scissors and cutter. So the big thing for me, I always like to teach the DBs the difference. Scissors is when, so let me just go like this. If you got 2 receivers, all right, scissors is when the post goes first, right? The post goes first and then the corner comes, okay? And then the cutter is just the opposite way. Cutter, the corner is going first. He's the clear out guy, and they're trying to run the post and hit the post right behind him. All right, so guys got to understand the difference between that, right? Because it's going to play out different if you're playing hold or if you're playing cut. Okay, so that's one thing I really want to make sure our guys understand. Switch release. Now, this is another thing that I think that's extremely important at all levels. The big ones I'll just talk about is 4 strong and 3 strong. Okay, how are we handling switch releases, right? So if it's 4 strong and 3 strong, I'm saying it's a 41 set, right? 4 receivers on one side. So that means for us, we travel. So that means our boundary half is going to come over to the field side. Now he's going to be working with the dime, right? And that's something that doesn't happen that much, that communication between those 2 guys, right? The same with if they come out in the 23 set with 3 receivers to the boundary, now that dime is going to track, and now he's going to be working with the boundary half. So different people are working with, so their responsibilities could change, and the person that they're working with can change. So I think it's really important that they understand. So I always want to make sure I'm doing some sort of switch release every day. And now switch release drills, it doesn't have to be full speed. This can be basically nice and easy, nice and slow, just so they can get the communication and understand how they're going to play it. Are we going to play up under it? Are we going to go over the top? All right, so the next one, number 3, bunch and cluster. I think these are important. Bunch, just so we're all on the same page, bunch is when they line up in static bunch. So if they just came out and lined up like that, okay? To me, cluster is when they motion to it. So say guys on the line, he comes down, he switches, releases, that's cluster, right? So those 2 plans have to be different. They have to have a plan, okay? And stack release, if it's 2 receiver side, he slides down and goes vertical, and he gets right behind him, and then he's going to go in or out, right? Play off his level. So these are just things that it doesn't matter as far as who you're playing. All teams, especially in the CFL, are going to run some sort of these, right? They're either going to be run bunch, cluster, stack release, switch release at some point during the game. And then motion adjustments. So we actually have motion adjustment periods sometimes. And all I'm trying to do is really confuse our guys, make them think. So if it's a 32 set, sorry, my drawing is not that great. I'm trying to draw on the iPad with a pencil. So I'm gonna go from 32. I may motion this guy over and then bring this guy back. I may bring two guys over. I just want to see the communication from the back end. How are they communicating? Are they talking? All right, so that's the weekly pass game drills. I get this question a lot. Guys always say, well, coach, what techniques do you teach? And the first thing I tell them is, what do your players need to know in your scheme, right? Because, for example, what leverage do I take on pulling linemen? Well, it just depends. Is your team boxing or, trying to box the pulling lineman, or are you trying to spill it and make the ball carrier get outside? So it really just depends, right? So I think it's important as coaches that we really understand what techniques do our players need to know in our scheme. Another thing, I'll just go back to the DBs down at the bottom, backpedal or shuffle, right? I get that question a lot. Do you backpedal or do you shuffle? Well, it really just depends on your scheme. For me, I prefer to shuffle because I think it slows the DBs down and they can focus more on their reads and their keys without creating so much separation. But again, it just depends on your scheme. All right, getting towards the end, just had a couple things, coaching points for drills. Teach drills and technique before you do it. Again, I think this is huge. Pre-practice, don't waste time. For me, in the CFL level, we have a little bit more free time. So sometimes I will actually show the drills to the players on video before we go out there. I understand you might not be able to do that at high school or little league, but as soon as they get off the bus or as soon as they get to the field, take 30 seconds and just explain it to them real quick. Do drills for things that you will see for the upcoming game. Again, I think everything goes back to the scouting report, right? So if the scouting report shows that, hey, this team you're going to get a lot of bubble screens or a lot of double moves, well, those are the drills that we need to be doing, right? So before I even decide what drills I'm going to do for the week, I look at the film. I have to understand what the team is doing first. A big thing, coach every play, good and bad. They need to know that somebody is watching, right? Even if it's, hey, I see you, good job. Hey, make sure you want to close a little bit faster. Just something. It doesn't have to be a long dissertation or a long speech, just something. Hey, good job, good hands. Just something to let them know that you've seen them. To go back to this, coach every play, this is also why I prefer to have coaches spread out, right? Because it's times that for I'm just use Winnipeg as an example. We only have 4 coaches on defense, right? So if we have 2 on the right side and 2 on the left side, I mean, that's one way we can kind of cover everybody. But the guys on the left side, maybe he didn't see, the DN all the way on the far side that got his hands up or that retraced back to the ball. And me standing on the sideline, I seen that. Hey, good job retracing. So that's just something that, players like. They want to know that they're being coached and being watched. This is another big one for me. Coaches speak the same language, right? So I think it's important that as much as possible, offenses and defenses have similar terminology, similar language, especially though for the defensive side of the ball. Like, for example, in Winnipeg, we call it tomahawk when you try to chop the ball out of the hand of the quarterback, right? I've been places where that's been called hatchet. right? So I don't want to get out on the field and say, hey, you need to hatchet, where that's where the other coaches are saying tomahawk, right? We need to make sure, I need to make sure I'm speaking the same language as everyone else. Use a ball as much as possible, especially on the defensive side of the ball, right? Again, we as defense, we have to think takeaways. We take the ball away from the offense. Offense has turnovers, right? So we don't use the term turnovers. We use the term takeaways, right? Because we're taking the ball away. Offenses turn the ball over. Explain the tempo. We talked about that earlier. And then again, at the end, just have fun. I think the players really feed off us, right? If they see us dragging, they're going to be a little bit down. One of the things I like about our staff in Winnipeg is everybody has their own unique energy. None of us are the same, but when we're on the field, we fly around, we all have fun, and it is contagious, and our players, feed off that. All right, so the last part is just our post-practice plan, and just some of the things that we do after practice. So after practice, we have a quick on-field debrief of what coaches saw on the field, right? So we compare notes. So one of the things I like to do is I have my coaches, and when I say I have my coaches, I'm speaking all my experiences from everywhere I've been. For the last 4 years, I've been the defensive coordinator in the Tropical Bowl. It's a college all-star game for guys that's getting ready to get drafted in the NFL. So when I say my coaches, that's what I'm talking about. So what I used to do is give all my coaches, make sure they have little notes or write on the back of their practice script, anything, make sure that we all have pens, and we want to compare notes. So as soon as the head coach blows the whistle, he's talking to them or they're stretching, we're going to huddle up real quick and just compare our notes. Hey, coach, what did you see? Hey, make sure we got to do a better job running to the ball, or we got to pick up the ball. It was a couple of times the ball was on the ground. We got to do a better job picking up the ball. So we just compare our notes real quickly. The next thing I do is input the calls into the computer for the players and coaches to see what they watch or when they watch the film, right? So I understand, you may not have that in Little League, or you may not have that in high school. But if you do, I think it's important to put the calls in. So when guys are at home, if they're watching it on Huddle or DV Sport, they know exactly what it is, right? One of the things that I should say, I don't want to waste a lot of time in meetings with the defensive staff or with the players sitting there wondering, hey, what call was this? What were we in? Let me look at the script. I think this is cover 1. No, this is cover 3. I just want to be organized and have it already on there for the guys. Then we watch grade practice as a defensive staff. And what I mean grade, we're not giving, pluses or minuses. We're basically it's more corrections. And for us, we give the corrections to the players the next day, so they will have something to look at as well. Or sometimes, guys are still around in the locker room. They may come a couple hours later and come get the corrections, and then they may go home and watch the film on their own. All right. The next thing, decide what plays to show, run again, or to take out a game plan. We've all been there. Hey, this play sucks. We ran it 3 times. We just can't get it right. Let's just take it out. Okay. And then we want to make sure we communicate that to the players so they can ease their mind. Hey, we're not running that play. So don't even worry about that this week. And then the last thing, we plan the next day's practice, and we pick our scout cards. Okay. So pick the scout cards all over again. For me, I don't like to use the same cards every day. I'll always kind of try to switch them up. We may run the same coverage, but I may have a different play, different little wrinkle. I may switch the motion up just because I don't want the guys just get comfortable. All right. So I always want to keep them on their toes. And the last thing meet with the scout team. So this is something that I've been doing for a while that's really been beneficial. I believe is getting my scout group together, and it may just be the beginning of the week. Hey, these are the 15 cards that we're going to run. Johnny, you're going to be 2 weak. Mike, you're going to be 3 strong. Look how he runs his route. On this play, I need you guys to get closer. Again, it goes back to having the right guys for the scout team, right? So what I do is I actually pull these guys out of their meeting, and then we will just have a little quick, 5-10 meeting or 5-10 minute meeting and just watch some film. When I was in Hamilton, I actually took the computer out to the field, and right up under, like when you come out of the locker room, it's like a little tent that was right there. And we used to just all meet right there real quick. And hey, here's the plays that we're going to run. Let me just show it to you right quick, just so we can be on the same page. And other places I've been, I've printed out the cards ahead of time, and I made sure they had them first thing in the morning or, the night before. So that was a lot. Let's see. Here's my contact information. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully I have a tendency to talk fast. So I put a note right here for me to slow down. So hopefully I did that today. Questions? Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Coach. Let's going to your situational down and distance. I noticed on your on your scout card that you had a down and distance. I'm pretty sure the scripts have down and distance, but really, how do the players kind of like at all the places you've been? How serious is that taken? Is there a down? I imagine maybe you need extra people to hold the down markers. I've been at other places where they have 2 people. One guy has 3 card, first, second, third. He puts it up, and the players can see it. The second injured player has 10 cards, and he says first and 10 or whatever. So, how of all the places you've been at all the levels, how serious is that taken?
Well, I tell you this, it's taken very seriously. For us, like in Winnipeg, we have our equipment manager. He holds the down and distance. Okay, so he holds that. He has a script. He's calling it out. He knows what it is. But it's also the linebacker's job in our scheme to look over to the sideline and get the down and distance. They relay it to everyone else, but it's also
it's relayed. It's not. There's no sticks, right?
Yes, we have the sticks.
Okay.
We just have one. We don't have the full chains. We just have the down marker. So wherever the ball is, they know it's 2nd and 7 or whatever, or third and 1. Right. So we do that. That's important because situational football, because the way that we do our game plan, we're going to have certain calls for certain situations. Okay. And also, I teach our guys to think conceptually. So if it's 2nd and 10 in the CFL, 95% of the time it's going to be a pass. Okay. The cutoff is usually, anything over 4 yards is going to be a pass. Right. So the linebacker, so they need to understand, hey, it's a 2nd and 2. It's probably going to be a run here. Right. So all of those things come into play.
Because I've seen where everybody yells it out, but it's kind of different when you're on the field and you look over and you see the sticks.
True. Now, I also will say it has less effect if the players don't have any data or anything to back it up with. So like if you can't tell me 2nd and 2 is a big RPO down for this team, then me calling out 2nd and 2 is not really doing anything for me, right? Like it's not going to help me play faster, right? So I need to know exactly what it is that they do on certain down and distances. Hopefully that clears up some.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Great job, Coach. Any other questions?
I love the
quick
play
for you, Coach.
from the scout cards. That's key. That is
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, that's key. That's one of my favorite things. Like I really enjoy doing that for the players.
Yeah. Yeah. That way they can see what you're trying to interpret on the card and stuff. And if they're having a hard time seeing it like it's a weird exchange or something, then
Yeah.
go watch them and how exactly they approach it and stuff, especially like with the cluster stuff and that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's the
And how
key.
they approach that.
And it is one thing I forgot to say about the cards. So for me, I'm a quarterback. Okay. Not because I have a great arm or anything like that. I'm actually suck. But I draw the cards. So I draw the cards. I know where the receivers should be. I know the splits, right? I know, like, I'm studying the film. So I really do think it's important that one of the coaches, whoever draw the card or whoever is in charge of breaking down the film, all those things should be the quarterback or should be in charge of the offense, right? And the reason why is because you know what it's like. Like, so for me, it's times I'm out there on the field, I know when the motion should come. So I'm motioning guys in. See, what happens is if you just let, I just use Adam Big Hill. If I just have Adam Big Hill as the quarterback, he's not going to know the timing. He's not going to know, hey, you need to bring the receivers in or wait till the receivers get all the way around the motion or X, Y, Z, right? So I think it's important that one of the coaches, or in my case, for me, to run that, to really make sure we're getting the looks that we need to see to be successful for that week. And, and I'm going to be honest, like, when I see the contours of the defense, okay, I know they're in hold or I know they're in cut. I know right now where the ball should go. And I'm trying to expose our players because I want them to practice harder. I want them to, be more competitive. And I tell you, they love picking me off in practice. They get excited. And it just elevates our practice. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent. But anybody else? Any other questions?
Hey, do you?
Yeah, I got a quick question for you,
rank
Coach.
order your takeaway drills and
You
stuff?
keep cutting me off, brother.
I heard takeaway drills. Do I order them?
Yeah, do you rank order them?
Rank order them, like which ones I'm going to do first?
In terms of which ones you think are most important to hit, in order, and then just to make sure when you're going through to see which ones you've done. Like I saw you ticked them off after you did them, but
yeah, I mean, I don't really, not the takeaway drills, because those are 30-second or 1 minute drills, right? I just want to it's more about getting them loose, getting their mind in the right place. To me, a takeaway is a takeaway. Like it doesn't matter if it's fumble, scoop and score. I mean, those are the main ones though. Fumble recovery, punch, rip, strip, and interception. So those are the three types of takeaways. So any type of, it doesn't matter to me.
perfect.
Gabe had a question there. Gabe, are you still with us? I can mute Sharpsy so he won't butt you out again.
Yeah, thank you, man. He's bullying me. I think this is what cyberbullying is called, right? I was also impressed, Coach, with the cards you drew up. I've never seen cards so detailed and really useful for what you have to do with those. So I was very impressed. I was just curious, it's a very small thing. I'm just wondering what your vice tackling drill is.
So basically, vice tackle, just have two guys, right? I'm trying to get in the camera. Two guys, and then one guy has the ball. Okay, so he can either run to the side, and basically we're just trying to keep him on our inside shoulder, right? So that's all it is. So it's just a 2-on-1 tackle. We're trying to keep the ball carrier in our inside shoulder, and the ball carrier, I mean, he may zigzag. We're just looking for proper angles, keeping the ball in our inside shoulders, palms up. Again, for us, we never tackle to the ground. Everything is controlled. So yeah, that's vice tackle.
So vice just refers to any tackle where you have two players converging on a single ball carrier.
Yes. Yep. That's it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Coach, how much space are you allowing for your vice tackle drill?
Yep. So we were usually we can go from the numbers, right? Numbers to the sideline, numbers to the sideline, and we usually started. Let's say it's a guy 10 yards apart. Say it's a guy on the 20 and a guy on the 30, and then on the 25-yard line will be the ball carrier, and now he can go either way. And so they're trying to converge and come closer to him. But then it is sometimes where we just make it real tight. I've also done it sometimes where they're like 5 yards apart. So I really want the ball carrier to stretch to really try to get outside of one of them. And then because I really want them to try to cut back and try to split them, right? The ball carrier should never be able to split two defenders, right? If they take the proper leverage and the proper angle and keep the ball carrier on their inside shoulder.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I try to put it in a format where it's in a core situation, meaning we're inside the box or we're out on the perimeter. So I'll put them in that same situation, working that vice technique, running inside out. We'll have backer, safety. Sometimes you can have it with a plug player with the safety, but a lot of times I'm just, we'll put corner. Really, you don't even need to do that. Just two guys getting together, working the same thing, just so that they're not overrunning the ball.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then sometimes we don't even have a ball carrier run or that third guy as a ball carrier. I would use the big medicine ball or the big blue ball and just roll it out. So one guy is going to be a frontal tackle, right? And the other guy is going to be a near hip. He's going to keep it in his inside shoulder. So those work just as good, just as well.
Yeah, I've also done that drill, adding another offensive player to throw another dynamic in there to give him like a block.
Give him a block. Yep. So we do that also. That's similar to like when we do bubble drills.
Perimeter.
Yeah, perimeter screens. That's like 3-on-2. Where those guys have to get off the blocks, and then the free safety has to come. He's the free player.
Chris Sweet shared with us earlier tonight, a bubble will solve everything, didn't he, Sharps? He told us that before we started the video. Bubble will solve world peace.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
So that was awesome.
So yeah, we're gonna sign off with the YouTube right now, but don't forget to give Paul a like on the YouTube page, and we'll see you all next Wednesday night again.
And next Wednesday is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern because we have 4 speakers to go. So
that's right.
A little bit earlier.
Paul's lined us up some pretty good offensive line talk.